or the historic town of Eatonville regular council meeting. Mrs. King, would you please verify quorum with roll call?
Yeah, Councilman Mack.
Here.
Councilwoman Randolph.
Here.
Councilman Daniels. Vice Mayor Washington. Mayor Garber.
Here.
We have the established quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is the approval of the agenda. I'm asking for that approval with the following changes. There are two items from workshop that instead of embedding where they are on this agenda, we will present them, they'll be presentations, just as they would have been in workshop. And then there was a walk-on item that was waiting for you at your tables. 2025, resolution 2025-39. We will add that to council decisions. And you also had meeting minutes that you probably got electronic copy. So with those changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I need to, one more. In the consent agenda, well, we're going to discuss item number 2. Are we keeping it in the consent agenda or are we moving it before we get to the consent agenda?
The consent agenda, the request was that item to be moved to council's decision.
And that's why I'm bringing it up. Because we were just getting ready to approve it without that change. So we're gonna add RFQ 25-09003 to be moved to council decisions. So I'm going to rescind my
Rescind my second.
was it? Okay, all right. So now with those changes, is there a motion to approve?
So
Is there moved and seconded? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. We are now ready for the presentations for. Thank you.
The engineering services.
Thank you, engineering services. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, and general public. My name is Mofulusha Murnane. I'm the engineering program management manager for GCI, who is the engineering program manager for the town of Eatonville's water infrastructure projects. I'm here to discuss the RFQ process for RFQ 25-09003 and go over the process selection for the firms that we would have for the design and engineering services. So as part of the items you have, the packet that you have, I just put together a presentation to go over the process that we went through. It was an intense process and well documented. So based on the overview that you see here, we went through about 8 steps. We started with the RFQ advertisement. Then after that, we had a proposal submission and opening, a public process. We had an RFQ evaluation and shortlisting, followed by an interview session. We did reference checks, and today what we're actually doing, which is today's current part of the process, is the final ranking and council approval of the design tool. After today, we would have going to the next steps, which will be the contract negotiation and then a final approval of an NTP task authorization that would also be brought to the council. So this is process 6 of the 8. So the RFQ advertisement, this is part of the water infrastructure program that is part of the SRF grant with the FDEP. As part of the advertisement or any consulting services, we have to follow the CCNA Act. So that's the Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act. And within the CCNA Act, one of the first things that is a requirement is that only the firms that formally respond to any advertisement request for qualifications are eligible to for evaluation and consideration. So we did have an RFQ advertisement that was advertised on 3 different public forums. One was the Town of Eatonville website where they could get all the RFQ requirements. The second one was on Demand Star, and the third one was on the Eatonville Water Program website. This information was open publicly, and it was open to all engineering firms that qualify. So as part of the RFQ advertisement, there was a requirement for submitting a proposal, a qualification statement. And that proposal submission was, the deadline was September 23rd, 2025. So as the deadline time was 2 p.m., as part of opening the submission, it was a public opening. We did record it, and as part of that recording, there were 7 firms that submitted proposals stating their interest for this program. And that public opening included us recording the names of the firms, the submission time and the date, and then the confirmation that they submitted all the required forms and documents. The firms that successfully submitted proposals to us were following firms: GAI Consultants, CPH Inc., Spectra Engineering and Research, WBQ Design and Engineering Inc., Baxter Woodman, GAE Engineering, and UMIS Inc. Next. After the proposals were opened, the next step was the evaluation, the RFQ evaluation and shortlisting. As part of this process, we had a 4-member evaluation committee. It consisted of myself, the program manager for GCI, Mustafa Albayedi. He's also a project manager with GCI. He has a technical knowledge of this project. We had Dr. Cheryl Johnson, who's the grant services coordinator at the Town of Eatonville. And we also had Elaine Chua, who's with the Town of Eatonville Police Department. The role of each member of this committee was to evaluate the proposals that we received and also rank them based on the qualifications of the firm, the personnel that they provided to us, their approach to completing the project, the schedule, their intent to meet the schedule deadline, and the MWBE requirements. These are all criteria that are required to actually fulfill the completion of the project. And the shortlisted firms based on that evaluation, so we had 7 firms, we shortlisted them to 5 firms. And those 5 firms included GAI Consultants, CPH Inc., Spectra Engineering and Research, WBQ Design and Engineering Inc., and Baxter Woodman. Next slide. So after the evaluation and the shortlisting, these firms were notified that there was going to be an interview phase. So as part of that interview phase, they had to come and present, further do an oral presentation following the written proposal they had provided. The focus of that oral presentation was to kind of look at how their firm communicates and how they plan to communicate with the town when it comes to this program. Their collaboration intent with the town and the other entities that they'll be working with, their technical skill to be able to perform the work, MWBE requirements. And this committee included 3 people. It was myself, Mustafa Albayedi, Dr. Cheryl Johnson. And that interview was conducted on the 9th of October 2020. And after the interview section, this interview also was ranked, and then we moved on to the reference check. So like we said, this was an extensive process. The reference checks included us checking the references that have been provided to us by each of the firms. Based on their references provided, we checked all the 5 firms' references between October 21st and 24th. That was included personally reaching out to all the firms. The purpose of the reference verification was to ensure that we were able to confirm that the experience that they claimed on their proposal was actually valid. So if they listed a project on their proposal, we wanted to make sure that they actually performed that work. the validation of their performance on drinking water, wastewater, and asbestos cement pipe replacement projects. It also included determining their firm's familiarity with SRF programs, FGP coordination, and any federal compliance requirements that were part of the grant. So Davies Beacon, American Iron and Steel, any of the federal requirements we checked. And then also the other thing we wanted to know from the clients, from their references was, what was their overall satisfaction with the firm that they worked during the time that they worked with it? And then now we're at the final ranking and council approval. So right now, today, what we're bringing before you is an approval of a pool of firms. So we have shortlist, we have actually selected 4 firms that, and they include CPH, GAI, WBQ, and Spectra. Baxter is not part of that recommendation. And what we're trying to do is we want the authorization from the council to proceed into going into a negotiation process with each of these 4 firms. So when we're negotiating with them, we're going to be asking them to give us their pricing and give us and we'll also be providing them the scope of work for the 2 projects that the 2 main programs. So the drinking water infrastructure project and then the wastewater infrastructure project. So once they provide us that information after your approval, we would actually be able to kind of not only document this process as part of the CCNA requirements, but we'll be able to go into the negotiation process and then come back to you with the final like approval to keep going with the design process. So the contract negotiation part. So like I said, we're recommending 4 firms to move forward in this process. They will be part of the pool that the town has as design services. So when we have this project and any other projects in the future that require design, the town now has access to 4 firms that we can solicit and we can ask them to provide us information and their pricing for other further projects in the future. And so this process that we're going to go into, especially for the water infrastructure project, we'll be defining the scope, we'll be confirming the deliverables schedule and the requirements, and those will be provided to the design firms, the 4 of them. We'll be requesting their fee proposal from each of the firms, so they'll submit their detailed labor hours, the rates, and their subconsultants, and any reimbursables that they foresee. As a program management firm, engineering program management firm, GCI will be evaluating their responsiveness, making sure that we follow industry standards and the pricing is reasonable, and then we'll be negotiating the terms. There would be a part of it that would involve some legal work to make sure that the contract is in the best interest of the town. So finalizing the scope, making sure that the contract provisions cover the town adequately, making sure that the fee and the schedule and all of that are solidified. And then after we've done that, the process should, we're intending that after this, the next one approval that we seek from you to actually assign the work to the firms should be hopefully the first council meeting in January. So it's a very short timeline, but that's what we need to meet the schedule. This is also a scheduled project where the state has given us scheduled deadlines that we have to meet. So there's a deadline we have to meet for the design services. So while that is in May of 2026, but we want to make sure that this process not only is transparent, we want to make sure that it's based on fairness, it's based on qualifications. We're picking the firms that will best fulfill the task that we have ahead. And then we would be coming back to the council to get the final approval, and you guys will be able to know who's assigned to what part of the work, and that would be the official notice to proceed after to continue the work. So that is it. If you have any questions,
First of all, thank you for your thoroughness in the job that you're doing. Vice
I
Mayor.
have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your report. I have a question about the rankings for the selected firms. Now, any of these firms also have another contract with the town for water infrastructure?
Yes, some of them have so CPH does have contracts with the town right now. One of the things with the CCNA Act is the intent of the CCNA Act is to give an open forum for anyone to compete for any work. It's not an exclude, it doesn't exclude any firm. So even though CPH is currently working with the town, they still have that opportunity to submit.
Now, I think this is a conflict of interest. I mean, down here, you have 1 through 5, one firm has not been recommended. You have another firm, I guess it's the fourth one, that is alternative future work. So that means like that firm is not getting work just for the future. So I think CPH, I recognize their work. I know they do good for the town, but I just think that's a conflict of interest. But for them to be a part of this as well as getting a contract as well as the other things that they do here in the town. That's just the way that I look at it. I know on the scale that you rated them, they were rated above everyone else. But I'm just looking at it from that point of view. I just think it's a conflict. Well, they have the same firm to get 2 contracts with the town. It's not unusual for that to happen, but that's just my opinion.
So based on my experience working on projects like this, it is not uncommon for a company to have multiple contracts with the town or with any state or government entity. Usually, the whole point of the CCNA Act is to ensure that there's fairness, and that fairness comes in not having a biased opinion about who you're evaluating. So we evaluated the proposals, and those proposals were based on did they meet the requirements that were stated in the actual RFQ. So in that requirement for qualifications, as long as they meet the requirements, we have to give them an opportunity, because as part of what the state gives, the state doesn't include an exclusionary, like there's no conflict of interest exclusions that are part of the CCNA Act. So if there's no conflict of interest, we cannot exclude the firm. When it came to evaluating the firms, we just had to evaluate them based on what we had already put out there on the streets. And we did that for the proposals, and also that's why we had a pool of people that actually did the evaluation. It wasn't a situation where we talked to each other, everybody evaluated independently. We have to evaluate on the same thing. So MWBE, we would evaluate on the same criteria, and everybody does an independent evaluation. Because this is a state-funded grant and it's not a private grant, we cannot go against what the state gives, which is equal opportunity and fair.
All right, I get an opinion from the attorney.
Let me first ask, I didn't think CPH was ranked, but it was ranked 2, wasn't it?
No, they're actually ranked.
They're ranked 1. Okay. So here's what the RFQ process says. It's not like a request for proposals where you're actually getting bids. That's not how it works. You're supposed to be picking based on qualifications, the most qualified. So if based on the matrix that they have and the metrics that they have, they come out on top, whether they've done work for the city or not, the town or not, of which part of the consideration might be how was the work for, was it satisfactory, but nevertheless, that's how they get ranked. And that's per statute is required. They are not permitted, nor are we permitted to consider pricing at that time. If they are the #1 ranked firm, then we start negotiations with them and only them, see if we can reach an agreement that we are satisfied with regarding the cost to do the work. If we do not reach an agreement, then you drop to the second firm on the list and the third firm. So when you talked about the fourth firm, it is unlikely we will get there, but it's possible. And it's based on this process of first negotiating with the highest ranked firm, the second highest, and the third ranked, until you get to one that's acceptable to you and you make a deal. So if you negotiate with the first firm and you think their price is too high based on other information you got, then and only then do you get to the next one and see where they come in. And if you like them, then you can go from there. But it starts in that order, and as exactly she described, it's a statutory process. So I can understand why you say, well, if they're already working for the town, they have an inside advantage or whatever. If this was judged the way it was described, it's exactly in accordance with the statute, where you get, basically set out qualifications, and then you judge those qualifications one firm against the other. And that can be based on the amount of projects similar to this, size of those projects, reports back of the experience of the various cities and governments that have worked with them before and so forth. So in terms of the legality of the process and the way it's been done, it's exactly the way the statute spells it out.
Vice Chair.
Thanks for coming out, but I think you mentioned that all of them, if this spot, that's what you just said, you said earlier. All of these companies that we recommend in piece of the pot, right? They're part of the whole project.
No,
Oh, they gotta do the bid process. That's what I thought. I heard you say.
yeah, no, this is the RFQ process to get a pool of firms that qualify to work with the town. So after this process, then we'll go into a negotiation process. The negotiation process, as he explained, would have to start with the first ranked firm first. One of the things that we considered even with this project was the nature of the work that we needed. We have asbestos cement, which is highly specialized. So that was something that even in our rankings, it was a big factor in our rankings to make sure that that firm can do the work that we need them to do.
But I did have the same question, echo what Councilwoman Brenda was saying about CPH. I know they already part of our city of everything we deal with engineering. So that's one reason I don't like why they're number one, and they always number one here, CPH. So that's one of the questions I had about them. So we have to look at that when RFQs come in, we'll go for that.
Yeah, so and I was one of the people that was on the committee. I can speak for like we had specific criteria. So if the firm meets, if the firm is qualified to do asbestos work, we cannot, we can't judge based on what they do at the town. Actually, sometimes it is to the benefit of the town that company has experience, because they have that experience, that they know the town, they know what the town needs. So sometimes, yes, they might put it in their proposal, gearing it towards Eatonville, but that's not necessarily always about.
With all the, oh, thank you for being here, first of all. What did this committee consist of, like all the people that had an opportunity to actually rank all these 5 different things that we're gonna possibly get? I know CPH, they do a lot of work in the town of Eatonville, and I know they've done a lot of work in the town of Eatonville, but I know you had mentioned the possibility of other people that do somewhat of the scope of the work also. But I guess you're kind of like saying that, I know you mentioned about some things that we're gonna really have to get done that consists of probably a little bit more high-tech stuff. So do you think, in a sense, the CPH is the more broad that would actually be able to get the job done versus all the other 4?
So this RFQ process was doing one part of the 2 things that we're going to take a look at. So this was first, are these firms qualified? I think of all the 4 firms that we're bringing before you today, any of the 4 of them can do the work. We ranked mostly based on what they provided to us, which was the written proposal and their oral presentation. The committee that actually did the ranking, we had 4 different people on there for the evaluation. I come from the program management perspective. Mustafa has a technical skill that he was able to take a look at their technical skill. Dr. Johnson was able to take a look at it from the grant management perspective, and Ms. Elaine Chua was able to also look at it from the perspective of what's good for the town of Eatonville. So we have that kind of balance, so we can take a look at on paper and based on what we hear from their presentations, do we think they can do the job? And that's why we also took it further to ask for entities that they had worked with. So now when we move to the second phase, which is checking the cost of what they think they'll be able to do the work for, and would it benefit the town? When we kind of look at all those perspectives, so we've looked at their written response, we've looked at their oral response, we've looked at their recommendations or their references, and then we'll look at their pricing. So that kind of gives us a very good 360 perspective. If I just give an example, when we did the written response, the scoring was actually CPH, GAI, Spectra was third, and then WQ was fourth. When we did the oral, it flipped a little bit. So there is no, like right now, we're just asking to approve those 4 firms in the pool. It doesn't mean it would definitely be CPH that would get all the work. It doesn't mean it would be GAI. We don't know yet until we start negotiating with
Well,
them.
besides CPH, have any of these other companies ever did any work for the town of Eatonville?
So Spectra has done work for the town of Eatonville before. That's a firm that has worked with Eatonville before. GAI and WBQ, to my knowledge, haven't. But we do have Spectra on that list that has done it.
And during the bidding process, who actually, I know we had to do a bidding process, so who's actually the one that actually got the particular jobs in the past? If you could answer that.
Which one of them has gotten work in the past?
Like I know CPH has, I know you mentioned Spectrum.
Yeah.
The other 3, they never had any association with doing any work for.
No, all of them were, though, they were willing to collaborate with other firms. So that was another thing that we kind of put as a requirement, that these firms would be willing to collaborate or bring in other firms that they could work with that might have a familiarity with the town, with doing work before. So each and every one of them indicated that they would be willing to work with firms that have prior knowledge of the town. So this is going to be a design project that they might, as a firm, bring on other firms, or collaborate with each other and get the work
And the
done.
reason for saying that is because I was kind of like what wondering what Ms. Councilwoman Randolph has stated in terms of being a conflict of interest. That was kind of one of the things that kind of raised the red flag with me when I seen CPH, because I know the scope of work that they've done for the town of Eatonville, which is a lot, you know what I'm saying, in terms of engineering and all the other things that they've done. So being that the attorney kind of cleared it up, being that it's not a conflict of interest, I know it's still gonna have to go through its vetting process in terms of, just being with the numbers. I know the numbers are gonna deflect everything in terms of which decision we're gonna make anyway. Because of course, we want quality, right? But we want something that's gonna be a lot more feasible also. So we got other people besides CPH that are putting their bidding process out there. We wanna definitely make sure that we're kind of soon with everybody else that could possibly give us some numbers that could be, significant and, to our better liking also. So I guess it's just gonna be a process that we're gonna have to go through.
I think it's also important to note during this process, those individuals had individual score sheets.
And I know it was
And
a
then
lot of them were
individuals-
similar also.
Right, but they don't talk, so they all go through and they score, then all those are turned in, then at the end, they go through and they tally everything up, and that's how they get the numbers. That's what makes it a fair process by individual score sheets. There's a difference that they sit there and collaborated, they have individual score sheets. Then at the end of everybody's done, then they go through and they add up all of them, and that's how they get the ranking that way. So that's what makes it a fair process.
And this was all recorded, just.
Yeah, it was recorded, so if you wanna see it.
Yeah, now.
But what is this going for? This what proposal? This what? That's
Oh, so that actually was, that's a reference sheet for you guys to read our, like,
Hold
the.
You said read.
I know, sorry, but
I
I
can't do it with
thought
glasses on.
you were going, I apologize.
Yeah, I was
We should
like-
have printed it on a larger document, but if you have the actual agenda, the agenda item, the packet on the computer.
Oh.
Sorry, you can pull it up, because what we wanted to do was give you an idea of the responses, each of the
Right.
responses. So if you look at it, it talks about each of the firms, what the evaluators, each of the evaluators, what their feedback was on the proposals, what their feedback was on the interviews. It gives you information about the structure of the firm, so the name of the prime firm, so CPH, who are their sub-consultants, it's in there. It gives you an idea of what their experience is with SRF funded projects, which is big for this project. So you can see what projects they've done under SRF funded projects. You can see the qualifications of their key staff. you can see the information on their understanding of the scope of the project, their methodology and their plan to meet the schedule, what they plan for their MWBE participation, what their licensing is, because they have to be licensed, what their financial statements is, because that was one of the things that we kind of looked at, what their financial standing is. And then it also gives you the summary of what their references said about the firm. So before the next time we bring this to you, maybe you have had a chance to take a look at it. But it was just an attempt to give you an overall perspective of these 7 firms, actually, with the 5 ones that a focus on the 5 ones when it comes to interviews and reference checks.
Okay, so then that you said that, what are we looking to get done tonight with these different firms that you just named?
Tonight is to approve the pool of firms, the 4 firms, so that we can go into the process of negotiating.
Regardless of what they're ranked, it doesn't matter.
It's the ranking you're approving, because once you say, we agree with these rankings, then that will instruct your negotiating team to go to the first ranked team, which right now would be CPH, and negotiate. But if you said, I don't like those rankings, for whatever reason, you articulated a reason, and they don't suit you, it's something, it should be ranked a different way, then it's whoever ends up as the high ranking firm gets the negotiation opportunity first. Doesn't mean they get it. Usually they do. But that's when, and for the first time, price is a consideration. I'll read you how it reads so you understand that fairness is a big part of this, but it's not the only part of it. The agency opens negotiation with the top ranked firm. That's what you're doing now, but not based on price initially. The statute prohibits considering the fee or price until after the qualified ranking. The agency negotiates a contract at a compensation determined to be fair, competitive, and reasonable, considering the scope and complexity of the services. The reason for this is to protect the public in getting, particularly for these kinds of services, somebody who is going to provide a project with its design that is safest for the public. And if you have firms that are very close, then you look at, okay, they came in a price that seems a little off, and the next one down, which is like just very close in time, but they have a much better pricing structure, then you would be able to do that because you aren't able to agree with the first one. But the others are not relevant until you start with the first one. Then you go to the second one if you can't get to an agreement. And so that's how.
Now, I think that's where the problem lies with me, because I know you're talking about the structure in terms of pricing, right? So, and I know you also mentioned fairness. Now, with that method that you just said, in terms of fairness, after the fact of us approving this particular group of pool of people, of companies or what have you, and then we go to the next phase on doing the negotiation part with the monies, which is very important. I don't know who said it wasn't, right? Now, regardless of whether it's close, they don't agree with the pricing that, that we're proposing or what have you, now we're gonna find ourselves in a bind, right? Now I know a lot of times, like I said, though, from the beginning, from right off the dribble, when I looked at CPH, a red flag was, you know what I'm saying? And the reason, and nothing against them, right? Because they do work for us, right? But I just felt like it was a conflict of interest, regardless of what the attorneys say, and I trust his expertise sometimes. I ain't gonna say all the time. I'm just gonna be honest with you, right? Because we're human. You know what I'm saying? Things happen, right? And we dropped the ball tons of times down the road. And I don't want to continue going down the path of, saying that you can do this and you can really do it, or you can't do it. And like I said, I'm not gonna undermine the attorney from, and I don't know if it's an opinion or is it best practice or what, but I still got my idea of how I think, how I look at things also. So with me, I think the numeric numbers and ranking that have taken place, I trust the process, but I think CPH kind of stands out to me as a conflict of interest, regardless of what has been told to me. That's just my opinion. I know they're doing the scope of work for the town of Eatonville already, but I think in all fairness, like I keep hearing tonight, I think we have to give up other people opportunities to, you know what I'm saying, get in the pool and have that, familiarity with trying to do things for the town as well. That's just my opinion. I'm only one vote. So that's just my opinion about it.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Renee? You have something to say?
Now, I will read this provision because again, I think we're misunderstanding. The CCNA governs procurement of certain professional services by public agencies. This is not her preference, my preference. It doesn't even matter what your preference is. This is what the law requires you to do for these kinds of services. And those services are engineering, surveying, mapping, architecture, landscape, architecture, etc. Generally based on the safety of the public. It requires selection based on qualifications, not lowest bid, to ensure confidence in quality, protect public interest. And so what the legislature has constructed here with the CCNA, the Competitive Consultants Negotiation Act, is a system by which, where in almost everywhere else in government contract, we look at low bid, right? This is an exception. This is where we don't look at low bid. We most are interested in what are your qualifications so that we know we're going to get a good project. The good news here is just based on the fact that I know most of the firms, not all of them, but certainly the top three I know, they're all good. They're all qualified. So it becomes subjective when you're trying to look at who's most qualified. And that's why you have a committee that tries to do that. And this committee was made up of the four people that were mentioned. And they have a view based on the criteria they put out and the information they got back. But that doesn't mean, to say it another way, CPH, by being the most qualified, shouldn't be disqualified from your consideration because, well, they have a conflict of interest because they're the most qualified and we've hired them before. That's the reverse of what the statute is asking you to do.
I get it. And I think it, in the blind eye, you can look at it. And of course, quite naturally, whenever you're doing business and, trying to find that lowest bid, that's normally how it's done, right?
Yes.
So I think in this procurement that is being done, and it could be a little challenging to a lot of people to make that decision on how they want to move about doing it. And I'm one of them. You know what I'm saying? As a leader up here, I don't agree with it. I don't care what the law says. You know what I'm saying? I'm a lawmaker also, but that don't necessarily mean that I'm right all the time either. So I'm just not in agreement with how the process necessarily went. You know what I'm saying? Now, CPH, of course, they're the highest rank, which is good. I know they do a lot of work and they do a lot of good quality work, right? But I keep hearing the word fairness. And I think we probably need to do something different in terms of how we rank them also. We ain't just gotta go by full qualifications, even though that's what we want, right? Like we want you to be to the point of having the most qualification of doing it. But I think all of them are equally good. And if we're gonna be fair across the board and just spreading the love in a sense, right? I think we need to give everybody an opportunity versus sitting here being somewhat stuck on just the highest qualified company, you know what I'm saying, or engineering company that would possibly be doing the work. And I know, it's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. Like I said, everybody got an opinion, and that's my opinion. The law is the law, but I don't always trust the law. I'm just being honest with you. Hey. I'm not a big advocate of a lot of things that go on here as far as lawfulness. So, yeah. I'm speaking as a leader. I'm just being honest. Just being honest with you. On certain things. I ain't gonna say all. This one in particular.
If that is the last comment, we're gonna move to the next presentation.
This question, the solid waste can.
I thought we had two.
We had two
We have
presentations.
two presentations. We're moving those two workshops up front. The solid waste, the cycle presentation from the workshop.
That. But.
So we don't have it.
No.
We don't have it.
It wasn't another one, correct?
Solid waste was on the workshop.
Yes,
She
we moved it
over
to
to
7:30.
capital.
Okay, so then that will be the first presentation. Would be.
We just did the first presentation with,
Okay.
all right,
Good evening, everyone.
we're enthralled with the conversation.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council, residents, guests. Thank you very much for coming out. I have a very pleasant item to discuss. And that is our local business preference program for construction projects.
Wait,
Is this,
no, this is from workshop.
okay, this is not on the workshop agenda.
The rate issue.
The solid waste. Go ahead, with solid waste. You go ahead.
I defer to you.
So to bring this to it, I mean, everyone knows that the cost of goods and the way of doing business has increased. So the sweet version of it is that we have been assessed countywide with a 12% increase in solid waste. So with that being said, we have to increase our rates because the rates have gone up along the lines of solid waste. So for Orange County to dump your solid waste, it has gone up 12%. So this resolution is simply to not a pass on, but the cost of doing business, we have to go ahead and increase our rates in order to not operate in the negative. And that's pretty much, so as you see in the resolution, everyone has a copy of it. The cost of roll-offs for residential now will be moving up to $26.43. And this all will be effective come January 1st. And then the cost for commercial services, depending on the size of your commercial unit and the number of pickups, you will see that those rates have increased also. And that's where we stand right now. If there's any questions.
We're now ready for public hearing portion of the agenda. So the, yes,
You ready for me? Carl?
so the approval of the first reading for ordinance 2025-7.
We have citizen participation.
Oh, gosh, thank you. Citizen participation. My apologies.
But if there's any citizen petition dealing with those ordinance, we're gonna let them talk during that time, correct?
Yeah, so if what you're gonna speak about are any items in the public hearing section, then you have the opportunity to speak during that time. So if there are any citizens that want to participate for another subject, then you can call those.
So the first one who has submitted their form is Joyce Harvey.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, Ms. Lee. Thank you, Clifton. Okay, so, good evening, council, and thank you for your beautiful explanations to try to keep it moving. Thank you. And, folks, Catalina Park has a resident, Ms. Johnson, who has called the police numerous times about, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not short on this. There are people who like having police near California. I just wanted to say that there are some people who were left out of that discussion. And there have been brilliant people working on the administration trying to make sure that the police building and other things could coexist. There are people who are planning for broad things, including restrooms. And I only know about it because I bug people about things that I want. So when I heard him say that, I was like, thank you. But I also realized I hear some personal stuff and everything isn't the mayor's fault. Now, some things are, and we know we go at it a lot. But the fact of this police thing and the grants are specific technical things that have deadlines, and you fit it or you don't fit it and you lose it. But it's not her fault that everybody doesn't know about it. I know about it because I ask questions, and this has been on here for like years. So I'm hoping we can, move this along. And last week, there's no extension. properly, because the Department of Justice now is the Department of No Justice, the Department of Injustice, and if we think they're gonna give us anything, we're probably not gonna get it. And there was a comment made about, buying land before. The cultural aspect of Eatonville is changing every minute. And I know we want property taxes, we may get no property taxes eventually, depending on the laws, but every piece of land that the town itself can acquire, rather than people outside who don't care anything about the culture or the history, who just want land because it's less expensive. We need to try to get everything that we need. That's just my opinion, and you know, I'm gonna keep saying it. Thank you.
You have Angela Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, fellow residents. They expect to be called out.
It's a brain fart. It was a brain fart.
No, but one thing I would like to state in all sincerity is, it is just in my opinion, that as our town and our elected officials, that you're obligated to provide a comprehensive oversight, which includes reviewing every component of proposals and information that you receive, not merely articulating opposition. And I say that because, again, we're talking about the facility, proposed facility in Scary Park. Yes, I am one person that will stand in support of it. I don't foresee that, some people will state that having a police substation in the neighborhood is going to bring down the value. I'm going to speak personally. There was a shooting. People were shooting directly in front of my home. There have been several shootings in that community. So if having that building, that structure in the park is going to reduce the risk that is, to us as residents, then I'm all for it. And as we said, it is just one component of what the future upgrades of the park is. So I would say to you, you have a responsibility for not just staying focused on one particular component of a project, but talking to the staff, talking to the CAO to know we've been talking about the additional dollars that were coming from Orange County for years. And now that they've been awarded, kudos to the staff. So now we know that that's going to enhance the park. So as elected officials, I will ask and I appeal to you to get out and talk about everything in totality. So when you're hearing the opposition from one person, don't say that you're speaking for all. I can't stand here and say that I speak for everyone that is for it, but I know that there are some people that do not oppose that building. So don't just listen to one or two or three individuals and say you're speaking on behalf of the community. And let us be reminded that the Francis Gary Park is not just for the Catalina Park community. It's a town park. And what I have said to the residents that live in Catalina Park, if you want to own that park, then establish an HOA, purchase it from the town, and you can do whatever the hell you want to do with it. But we can't get the members of that community to even come together as a community group. So I appeal to you, go into the community as elected officials and tell them the entire story.
Thank you.
We have Anthony Grant.
Good afternoon, Mayor Council. I was listening to the engineering issue. And I heard the attorney, what he said, and I tend to agree from that perspective. But I guess the question for me is CPA has done projects for the town, not from a competitive bid process, but aren't there the CPA is the town engineer of record that reviews all of your plans and they are the town's engineer? Okay.
Professional services, yes.
So who reviews their work? If they were ranked number one and if they qualified to get the work, who reviews their work? If they are the town engineer. Doesn't normally the town engineer, I'm not familiar with this on the sexual question. Doesn't the town engineer review the work of the other engineers submitting to the town?
I'm,
That's it.
so I don't say it wrong,
Okay.
I was gonna ask Ms. Renee to address it. Wait, is that your only question?
Just to make sure I'm clear, can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
No, I was just listening to, because it appeared that CPH, from listening to council members, CPH does work projects for the town, and I get that. But you would think, listening to them, they do separate work through an RFP process. But being familiar with the town, CPH is the town engineer of record. So if CPH, when and if CPH gets this, I know, I'm thinking it might be, it might not be a project. But who reviews their work?
So there is, as the engineering, program manager, we do have the QA/QC review for, the design process, yes.
All right, thank you.
That was the last one.
There are no more citizen participants. We're ready for the public hearing portion. The first item is the approval of the reading of ordinance 2025-7. We will hear the preamble.
Yes. Ordinance 2025-7, ordinance of the town of Eatonville, Florida, amending the code of ordinances of the town of Eatonville, Florida by amending subpart B, Land Development Code, Chapter 4, zoning, Article 3, zoning district regulation, Chapter 65, use regulation, Section 65-1, to permit duplexes in R2 single-family residential zoning districts, providing for legislative findings, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, so the preamble has been read. I will now all right, so before we open up for public comment, I'll have.
Good evening, Tara Salmieri, Town Planner, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, members of the board, members of the community. Tonight, we're talking about ordinance 2025. On next slide, please.
Yes.
2025-07. November 13th, we had a planning board meeting, voted and recommended to move forward with adding duplexes to R2 zoning district as a permitted use. And as a result of that permitting, you would also have to revise your dimensional tables for duplex standards. This is a zoning map, but I'm going to talk about two different things. The zoning map itself is listed, but you'll see R2 zoning is the tan portion of this map. On the right side, that's really the east side. All of that area has a different land use. That is a residential medium land use that allows 8 units an acre. On the left side, the area that is in the yellow highlight, that has a lower density. That area would not permit duplexes because of the comprehensive plan. But all of the area to the right and the red dotted line, all of that has that higher land use district. So what we've run into, the real issue that we've seen, and I'll also share with you the analysis that was done. There's a section in your land development code that talks about non-conforming uses. The question, we had gotten a few inquiries that of people that actually own duplexes today. Asked if they could rebuild, if there had been a disaster, if there had been a fire, or anything that happens that they lose the ability and they have to rebuild. This portion of the code, the partial destruction, it's section 60-437 states that if 50% or more has been destructed, you're done. So anybody that owns a duplex today would then no longer be able to operate as a duplex. The second issue, we also got an inquiry that we offer a zoning letter, and that's to refinance. Anybody that is in need to refinance a duplex will also be denied because the banks look at the ability to rebuild. So there's been some of your property owners having some issues as a result of the non-conforming use standard. So the next step in the process was to look at how many duplexes exist. I will tell you that the property appraiser is not 100% certain on all of it because they code duplexes a variety of ways. But I think I grabbed the majority of the duplexes that were out. So right now you have 25 duplexes that are already operational. You'll see a column of the years that it was built. So some of the questions that I got asked in the planning is how were they able to do it if the code didn't allow it? Well, I can answer the question on almost everything from 82 and older because you didn't have a land development code. So that would be the easy answer. 82 to 99, I'm not sure because there could have been changes and they just left. So those are the things that historically I don't have that data. I just have what's happened today. Now, going into approving duplexes in R2 would essentially allow all of the properties that have the duplex to maintain their use. There are, I've separated about 5 or 7 of them, and then the 18, you'll just see kind of a bar in between. The first 7 would be able to have additions and build on if they meet setbacks, because they also meet the acreage requirement. Everything below, they're the 17 or 18, they can rebuild to what they have today if we approve a duplex. They will have to probably go through a variance process because their lot width will be too small. So some of these lots are half the size of what would be required. But the variance process is set up specifically for property that does have a hardship. And the hardship is they've been platted and they've already been able to do it. So they would go through a process that would allow them to rebuild as well. This is another step. And I should say that it's a vote. That's a Board of Zoning adjustments, but from a staff report, they would meet the variance criteria pretty well because of their existing conditions. The next slide. So before you today is the consideration to add the duplex 2-family to R2. And that would only be for the R2 areas that are to the east, because they're the only ones that can meet that standard. Next slide. If that is approved, the second part of the land development code that would be changed is the dimensional standards. And right now you only have a minimum lot width for a single family residential. R2 is 50 feet wide. But in order to be consistent with your comp plan, if it was a duplex, it would have to be 100 feet wide. Also, the lot size has to be 11,000 square feet. So I looked at some of the math because one of the questions the planning board asked was, you know, then if we approve this, can new duplexes come in? And yes, in theory they could. By this policy, is it likely? Probably not, because you would have to acquire 2.5 lots in order to do it. So most people who have a single family home lot are not going to buy another lot and half a lot to make it. But yes, it's possible. So I want to disclose that because that's something that could potentially happen. With that, in order to, so the setbacks and the requirements are the exact same, except for the minimum lot area, because there will be 2 units instead of the 1. And the next slide. And if we are moving forward and the council, wants to move forward, I've taken this opportunity on this table to then correct the table because we get a lot of inquiries and you'll see the strike through and we're not changing the standards, but they're in the wrong column. So I have to issue a letter and explain it to people when they call in that yes, it says, for example, 40 feet height in the building percentage, but it means height. So it's not important to do. We're still doing it, but it's in the wrong column. So that's the only. Next slide. So the findings is really that adding the duplexes, one on the staff report that it doesn't violate your comp plan as long as it's on the east side. It allows your duplexes to expand and to renovate and rebuild. And then another opportunity is to provide ownership and rental opportunities and to continue in those areas. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, dealing with this matter, was there something mentioned about insurance? Those owners that could not get insurance if they had a duplex in the R2?
I'm not aware. I've not ever had that brought to me. It was what I had fielded on calls is that I was being asked to do zoning verification letters for loans, and loan officers were denying
Yes.
refinancing.
Yeah.
So I don't know about insurance, but the loan has become an
So if
issue.
a R2 duplex is destroyed by hurricane or burned down, they can rebuild. Is that what you're saying?
Not today.
Not today. So they would have to replace that
With a single
dwelling
family
with a
home.
single family home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So no new duplexes can be built in this zone as of today.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. I have
Thank you.
a quick question. So instead of, if this passes, then in the future, it opens up the door for more duplexes and more rentals.
Potentially,
If
yes.
someone-
Yes.
Is there any way to grandfather these in without, so like a variance to just grandfather these in? So if these particular residences were destroyed, then they could by a variance letter rebuild without opening up for more rental.
I met with, I did ask those questions when we had our planning board meeting, and the advice of the town attorney that sat was that if we change the non-conforming, it would be kind of picking just one use instead of that's a general non-conforming use. So it becomes problematic to say that one use. And because it doesn't violate your comp plan, it makes it challenging to say, if you've built, you can have, if you want to, if you've built, you can keep it, but no one else can, even though it's consistent with your comp plan. So that was the challenge, was to just grandfather a specific versus not allowing it all.
Isn't that kind of what we have now? So if someone is in a non-conforming use right now and then it's vacated for 6 months, then they can't
Correct.
continue. So
Yes.
could we not kind of protect these from that happening in enough way without opening us up for more rental?
There is an option, but it requires you to consider some things like, Ms. Salisbury mentioned, I think the first dozen or so, where you have adequate lot size. And so if they wanted to build back, if they wanted to expand, that's an option. For the ones that are on substandard lots, that's the term that we use. Too small. That is 50% number. They can't. So if you change that, you can lower. You have the ability through your code to lower the percentage. So 75%, then they can't build back. And so it gives them a bulk margin, a larger margin for error. And similarly, you could say, for example, the whole purpose non-conforming use law is that somewhere you have decided, we don't want these anymore. That's your decision as a legislative body to make. If you decide, well, we love them, essentially, that's what our two change proposed is. We're gonna let them be in there and make it legal. But if the thought is, we want to not affect people that are there now, don't want any more, we don't want to open this up to rentals. Your only option to give them the protection that they're looking for is to up the percentage natural storm, fire, something like that. So it goes from 50 to 75, 80, whatever you come up with, that's within your purview. And the other thing is you can similarly provide a threshold for what they can do that's considered a repair as opposed to a rebuild. I'll give you an example that you all will be familiar with. You're familiar with what used to be Peacock Ford, it's called now, but what it is now. They went through about a $7 million redo of their complex over there in Maitland. You would know why I know this. And shortly after they completed it, Maitland changed its code to take away automotive sales and automotive repairs as a permitted use in their downtown district. So that meant that immediately upon completing their $7 million improvements, they were a non-conforming use. And they sued us for it, and I won. Thank you. But the reason I won is because they can continue that non-conforming use ad infinitum. What they were, so that they weren't losing any sales, they can continue to sell cars for as long as they want to. They didn't, it's not like they invested $7 million, they'll never get the value of it. But their concern was, what about a storm? Okay, what about the build back issue? Yeah, that potentially hurts us. You know, and what about the resale? That's where they really come after you and they say, well, now, since it's a non-conforming use, you've hurt our resale. But that's not an issue that is recoverable in a lawsuit. So what you're looking at here is not just the ability to keep other renters out, it's to accommodate the people who own these units so that they can have some level of security that they'll be able to build them back or rehabilitate them. So that was the other thing. We said, well, your statute, your code says that, you know, if you do repairs that are above the value of, let's say, 25% of the taxable value on the rolls, now you're not a repair anymore. And you now are triggering, expanding your use, that's not permitted. So the city could and did say, well, we're gonna up that percentage. If you couldn't get a permit to do a repair that was more than 25% without it going into triggering it being new construction, not permitted and so forth, up the percentage. So I don't know how that works in this code, but that's some of the things that you can do that you have control of. That's not in front of you tonight, but that's the direction you gave. That's some things that could be done. Is it a solve every problem? No, because one of the things that Ms. Salmieri is talking about is what do lenders think about it? And what will they lend on? And I can't control that, but those are some things you can do that are not sort of opening the books to duplexes in R2, but give additional protections to the ones that are already there, but still keeping them as non-conforming.
I like that.
Yeah, if I can just ask a clarification, because if there were, if the direction is to do the non-conforming use, it's okay to when that up, the percentage gets increased.
Yeah, because they set
It's
the
for
percentage.
all uses, or you can singularly say that it's a duplex only can be increased by that certain percentage.
It depends on how the code is written, but yeah, you could make it specific like it was for them. They could not, we upped for that specific zoning district, the build back percentage. So that you could, if it was 50%, I think they upped it to like 80 or 90%. So you have that authority if you choose to. Now it will affect not just them, if depending on how it's drafted, it'll affect anybody else. I don't know who else would be in this category. And so the thing you try to do with non-conforming use law, which is its whole body of law, is you're trying to keep something from continuing to happen and definitely keep something that you don't like from getting bigger. So you don't want to expand the non-conforming use. You want to ultimately eliminate it. But if that's not your goal with these existing properties, then there are ways you can exercise some more control by changing the percentages and raise the percentage on build back, raise the percentage where they can come in and do repairs without being dinged. What P-PAC Ford started to do was when they started to say, well, we're gonna break, I think it was, for them, it was like a 10 or 15% threshold for repairs. They wanted all new windows, not in their building, which they already had, but their repair facilities in the back. And by value of these windows, which were pretty expensive, they exceeded the threshold. And so then they said, well, what if we only do this amount of windows this year? And we get to the next calendar year, we do this amount. And that's how they kind of negotiated around it while we were trying to up the limits.
And then to be clear, then if that was the direction, it would be a non-conforming use.
Still non-conforming.
Non-conforming use.
Yeah.
And
I
not
think
permitted.
this give us a little more variables to work with. As long as they're not replacing it with another duplex. You know, are they trying to expand, on that structure?
That's what I said, will allow them to expand. It would just give them the opportunity. If we got hit by a tornado, they could build back. Because in an ordinary situation with a tornado, you're gonna get destroyed beyond 50%. And then you would not be able to build back. But if you up the percentages to say 90% or 80% or so, there's a better chance that they could qualify. But again, remember, the goal of non-conforming use law is to get rid of the use altogether. So that's what that's the balance you're playing with here.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Mary?
Mayor, we have to open to the public.
Yes. So we are now opening this item up to the public. If you would like to speak on ordinance 2025-07, you may come to the lectern.
Good afternoon, council. This is Mel. I thought the attorney said that with the town being a total CRA district, what determined, did we say that, no, you cannot rebuild? Or what was that?
That was in regards to design standards.
Oh, that's what that was?
Yeah, he was talking about design standards.
Okay, then that's also two other we said is only for the existing.
That's not what the planning commission voted for.
Okay.
We have Ms. Brent.
Good evening. I raised the issue with Ms. Tara on the duplex issue. I've got a duplex that I purchased, two duplexes that I purchased right down the road, and they were built in 1934. And $670,000, so I went to refinance. And they told me I could not refinance. Couldn't finance it because it's not a form. And I get it. And what the attorney said, even if you do 90%, you still cannot. It makes it not gonna refinance, even at 90%. And I understand what he's offering that. But I think Ms. Tara and P and Z, if you heard what she said you have to assemble 2.5 lots. Financially, for a developer to go out and 2.5 lots, or buy a house and tear that down with the lot next to it, 3 lots, you really got 3 lots. It's not financially feasible to go and build a duplex if you got to get 2.5 lots. Really, there's no such thing as a half lot out here. You got to go and get a whole lot or none lot. So you've got to go out and assemble 3 lots. Now you think about it. Where on the east side is 3 vacant lots to put a duplex without having to buy a house here and buy a house here with a vacant lot here. So you're going to go out and spend $250,000 to buy this house, $180,000 to buy this house, $75,000 to buy that lot to put a duplex up. I think it was genius what they said. You're not going to put it on a 50-foot wide lot, which is what the code allows you to do now. I think. We've got some at 50-foot lots, but 100-foot lot. So it's just difficult. But at 90%, the bank's still not going to refinance you. You can do 99%. It ain't gonna happen. So I just ask you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? In 3, 2, and 1. All right, the item is now closed from public participation. I had one more question before. So if I have a lot, it may not be 100 feet across, but what if it's 100 feet deep? Duplexes don't have to go side by side. One can be in the front and one can be in the back. Am I right?
Yes, what you're saying is correct, but the zoning revisions before you require 100-foot lot width. So you could not, if you had a 50,
So
you have
that's
to have 11,000 square feet,
So
so
it has to be, okay.
correct.
Okay. All right, are there any? All right, so you have heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
Boom.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of ordinance 2025-07? Does it matter if it's 07 or 7?
It's that,
2025-7.
that, based on the preamble and the index.
Vice Chair, question.
Y'all making any amendments to this? No,
Well,
no, just talk, you said 90%, whatever.
No, let me explain. So this is different from that. This is saying that for R2, duplexes would be permitted. If you want to protect lots that are smaller and are non-conforming, if it's permitted, they're not non-conforming, so none of the percentages matter. If they're not permitted and you want to protect in a zoning category where they're not permitted, like R1, R3, or some of the other places that were shown up on the chart, I think of one that's even in C3, then you would go to those particular codes, those particular categories, and you'd look at they call the build back percentages, and you'd alter those, but those would be in a separate.
so this would be a no, and then we come back to fix it in another ordinance?
No, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you want to allow, this is what the suggestion here is, to permit
Yes.
duplexes in R2. That's
Right.
the only one we're talking about here is R2. Okay, so if you're okay with permitting R2 duplexes, then your vote here would be yes, because that's what this ordinance accomplishes. If thereafter you also want to address in R2, R1, R3, C3, or whatever the others, the build back percentages, that's a separate
Got
change. You'd be brought in a separate ordinance.
But this is not for new duplexes. This is. for-
No, it is, because
But this
I'm
was-
saying,
Or like
if there were lots available, I think what Mr. Grant's point was, there aren't any places that you could get enough assemblage in the R2 zoning category to get a new duplex in. So effectively, that's not, it's a non-existent problem that doesn't need a solution, if that's accurate. But what this does is, it takes those that are in R2 currently that might be considered non-conforming, yes, and makes them conforming. And that means that they could always build back. They could always expand within the boundaries of the code if they meet setbacks and so forth. That's what it does for those that are existing in R2 today. It doesn't affect anybody in R1 or the other categories where you saw duplexes.
But this would allow the door to be open for more duplexes.
If there was a place to
Because we
build
have-
them, that's what I think
Right, right.
Mr. Grant's point. But there's
Right.
not really a place to put them.
Well, the problem,
So it's been moved and seconded. If you have a question, Councilman.
yes, I do, I'll comment. What I have an issue with as far as duplexes is that, the way things are today, most people who have a very nice home would not want to have a duplex next to their home. Now, let's just face it, that's realistic. Because I know I would not want a duplex next to my home. I think they need to be in designated areas in the town. And I don't think that, it's very appealing to our community. Whatever exists now is something that we can live with. But I think as far as, trying to get more duplexes or allow more duplexes in residential neighborhoods, I don't think it's a good look in our community. That's my thought.
All right, so a no will prevent new
It will leave it like this.
townhomes from being built, and it'll leave it just like
It'll leave
this.
it like it is.
All right. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Right.
Nay.
Then if you decide to provide relief vis-a-vis the other method that I mentioned, that's a separate order.
Okay, and on top of that, then that would have to go back to the planning board, to come
What
up
the right
with
percentage would be.
the new percentages. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So next item. First reading of ordinance 2025-06, local business preference program. Thank you, Ms. Summers.
Mayor, would you like me to read the preamble?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ordinance number 2025-06. It's gonna say 06. An ordinance of the town of Eatonville, Florida, amending chapter 20, article 2, division 1 of the town code to establish a local business preference in the acquisition of goods and services, providing definitions, establishing exceptions from local business preference, providing for the application and enforcement of local business preference, providing for codification, conflict, severability, and an effective date.
For the preamble, Ms. Monkey.
Yes, hi, good evening. In association with the over $50 million in townwide infrastructure, construction projects, we're proposing a townwide local business preference program. Under the proposed program, local businesses will be easily identified for potential contracting preferences. We're going to, next page, we're going to identify local businesses. And in fact, we've done that with the Mayor's Business Development Academy. That program had 50 participants, and there were many who applied too late and couldn't participate and were very disappointed. We have a collection, or we have a group now of local businesses who we would like to give those opportunities to participate in what they will, it'll enable the larger contractors who will come in to the town to solicit these projects. They will be required by this particular ordinance to, and not required, this will give them an opportunity to gain preference to utilize local businesses.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. The program will encourage local small businesses to compete for city contracting opportunities and to maintain local operations. The minimum requirements are a local office, local city and county, local town and county business, tax receipt, and an active business active in Sunbiz. Next page. Our goal on this project is to share the wealth. Program will also require outside prime contractors, as I mentioned, to include local businesses on the project within the town. That will give them a preferential treatment if they include local businesses who meet that criteria. The benefits of this program to the town, other than the obvious, are the town benefits with more business tax receipts. 2, the businesses will move to the town to lease space. There may be those who are outside of Eatonville who may want to locate their businesses in many of the vacant offices, or perhaps take advantage of a business incubator that might be in the town. This will encourage more business growth in the town. Existing businesses will be first in line. Prime contractors will be required to contract with local firms, and this would give them preference for the projects. We would like, with this presentation, that this be a law and certify the businesses. This is the first reading, and that will be the next page. First reading is December 2nd. Second reading will be December 16th.
This is 17. Okay.
And then December 17th we would open the opportunity, and we're working on an SOP right now, we would open the opportunity to allow businesses that meet the criteria, including business tax receipts, to be certified as a local business entity. Now, in January 2026, we're anticipating that the water treatment plant bid phase will occur. That's a very large multi-billion dollar program. And this opportunity will be presented to the larger contractors who would come in, and we would give them an opportunity to utilize these local businesses, and they would get a preference in their bidding. July 2026, as we talked about securing engineers, those engineers are preparing construction documents that will then put more projects out on the street. And then in August 2026, we would be looking at the bid phase. In addition to that, we have the park development, and that gives an opportunity for many local landscapers to participate in this as they would become certified and be part of the team. I'd like to turn it over to Attorney Shepherd for a moment, because he modeled this ordinance from a local ordinance that's already been established.
Yes, these ordinances, actually, it's funny, I did some research and I thought they were being more common than they actually are, but they are out there. And they do exactly what Ms. Monday has explained. If you give an opportunity for big businesses that are local, and as you mentioned, may become local because they move here, which may or may not be what you want, but nevertheless, it does have an additional advantage to it. To get some of this big pie of work that has been assembled by the grant team and Ms. Monday to really make an impactful change to the infrastructure of Eaton. And so the idea is, in a summary fashion, not only do the contractors who are doing the big bids get additional consideration in terms of points for bringing in people under them as subcontractors that are local businesses. But if there is a local business contractor who is able to taking on a portion of or an entire job as a local, and I'll give you a sample, and I'm making up numbers here, but let's suppose the bid was 500 from the low bidder and their bid was 520. With the local business preference, they would be equal. So you could then give it to the local business and you wouldn't have to be stuck with the low bidder. Because as mentioned earlier, in most contracting bidding, through purchasing policy and other things that apply, you're looking at low bid. The exception, CCNA that we talked about, is one of the few that starts with qualifications before it gets to bids. But that's how it would work. Now, what I cannot tell you, one of the questions that was asked of me was, what if someone doesn't meet the criteria? Meaning, maybe they have a license as an electrician, but they're a sole proprietor. They're a single human being that's an electrician, for example. Is there a way under this ordinance to include them? And that the answer is, I guess it is possible, but it is not in the ordinance as written. So we would have to carve into it or a local licensed whatever the profession may be, and there'd be a number of them, I suppose, whether it's electrician, maybe an engineer who's a sole provider, that sort of thing. I'm not sure of various businesses. This money would have to help you craft that. But you could change the requirements that are being recommended, local business license, corporation, or other business entity under SunBiz, if you chose to. There are reasons that individuals who are in these professions would, if they got good advice and had the financial wherewithal to do it, should for their own benefit become incorporated because it protects them from individual liability. So it's not a good idea to do business as a sole proprietor, but many do. And so if you want to make that a part of the consideration, we would need to carve that into the ordinance, which we could do on second reading. So even if you approve this on first reading, but said, hey, I'd like to see what that looks like, then I could go back with this money and we could try to figure out how to carve that into the ordinance.
All right.
Yes, and so thank you very much for that. And there are a number of trades that have participated in the business program. Some of them are licensed trades. There may be also those who could be considered that are support organizations. It could even be to the extent of, catering perhaps. So there are a number of occupations that will qualify for the local business ordinance. So at this point, I'm completed with my presentation.
Right. If there's anyone that would, this item is now open to the public. If you'd like to speak to this particular item, you may go to the left.
Again, Mayor, Council, residents, I ask that you, vote in favor of this first reading. There were some questions, if you could give clarification. What's the inventory of available office lease space for individuals that may want to bring their businesses into the town? Based upon the number of companies and organizations that came to and graduated from the Mayor's Business Academy, what does that look like as far as how many of those organizations, companies, sole proprietors are actually able to meet whatever the current requirements are for this preference? So what stats do you have on that? Also, when we're looking at, and we say a local office, PO box, can I be a large corporation and only have a satellite office so that I can now take advantage of this preference? How would that be managed to make sure that potential organizations are not circumventing a system in order to gain some benefit? And then if a person is a sole proprietor, because you may have a landscaping company that is a sole proprietor and they're operating out of their home as their business address, does that present any potential issues? How do we handle that as well? So those are some questions. If you can address those for this reading or your second reading, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers? The selection and say your name, please.
Hi, my name is Claudia Ray. I'm not a resident, but I actually am part of the GI consulting. I'm really glad that you guys are doing that. A little bit of light on the sole proprietor. It's, for example, if any of those small business have to be contract under, for example, GI, they have to meet the insurance requirements that the town has for that specific project. Usually it's really hard for a sole proprietor to meet those requirements. So think about that. I mean, they're gonna have to, if they're working on their specific consultant, there's certain insurance requirements, even if you have an artist. You know, because an artist is gonna have an engagement activity as part of a part for water treatment plant project, they do have to meet that. So also kind of think about those insurance that there's people business are gonna have to have, which adds a little bit of burden. And also, I don't know if your code allows to have offices in your home, usually when you're a small business, you're only gonna be operating out of space in your house with not necessarily, an office, but I think it's great. So I just wanna.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers for this particular item? All right, there being none, we're now closed for public participation. Did you want to address the question? Do we address the question now? Did
Mayor and Council, on the questions that I have that Ms. Johnson asked, them off of these space, them are vacant commercial spaces. I don't have that information right now, but by the next meeting, we'll get all that information back to you. I don't want to speculate, so I'd rather give you what we know to be factual.
And I guess I look to you because you said the SOPs will be developed, and I'm assuming that all of those, office versus satellite, PO box, or so, and how we'll work the sole proprietorship, also how the small businesses will be notified or trained. So all of that would be a part of the SOP.
Correct, we could do the research, but one of the questions that came up was, working from your home office. Many of these similar programs allow home office use as long as Sunbiz has identified it as their primary location. So that would then include many of our local businesses who do work from home. And then a lot of these details we will work out in the SOP as well. So I think we can address a number of those concerns.
All right, thank you.
I do want to jump in because I think that the point that was made by the speaker from GAI was relevant, worth repeating so everybody understands. If you're a company like GAI or CPH or anybody else who might be involved in future building of any of these projects, even if you have a local sole proprietor who's highly qualified as an electrician or whatever, since they would be operating as their own entity, they cannot be employees, or they have to be hired by the company's employee to be covered by insurance, workers' compensation, otherwise. So it will be a self-weeding process because no company like CPH or GAI or any of the others is going to say, hey, I know you're a great electrician, but you don't have your own insurance. You wouldn't be covered under our comp. That means if you were injured on the job, all liability is open and we have a problem. So their options would be, if we want to bring you in, you got to be our employee, or you got to get your own insurance. And that's going to eliminate a large part of the folks who might otherwise be able to get this work. So I don't have a solution to that, but it's a well-raised point.
And let me clarify too, that these programs pertain to construction projects only. It is not for professional services. So, we expect that, all people who are bidding for, and we've taught this in the mayor's program to, make sure that insurance is met. All those criteria, we had about 8 weeks of programming and trying to train some of the local businesses to really be able to comply and compete with, many of the bidders.
I have a question. What is the insurance requirements for the businesses that's doing business with the town?
I'd have to come back with the answer. I'd like to give you exact information, so I'll come back with the answer for that.
Yeah, the only reason I was bringing that up is because with today's expenses and costs, it was generally that most businesses had $1 million. $1 million,
It'd have to be way
$1
more.
million is
That's
nothing.
nothing.
That is nothing now to compare with the cost, liability.
Well, if I can help here,
Yeah.
there's categories of insurance and then there's insurance limits. What we need to talk about first is the category. So you asked the relevant question. Workers' compensation, auto. Say why? Because they use cars and trucks and so forth in the work. Workers, general liability. Somebody who's not an employee covered by workers' comp is injured on the job. And product completed operations. What does that mean? In the commercial insurance world, that means you've done a thing, and if you want that thing to be insured for some period of time as your completed product, then there's some coverage called completed product operations. All of those things have values, and a town of this size is usually on the low side. But the problem is these projects are not on the low side. So the insurance is going to have to be, even if we had a set of limits right now, it would probably be too low for the projects that Ms. Mundy's talking about. So even if we had the right type of coverage, what really needs to be visited is those limits.
Yes. And that's to be revisited, even though this is not the product, but also just general, just basic insurance, like for those who have festivals and things of that nature. That $1 million doesn't mean anything now. That too needs to be evaluated as well. So who's going to come up with the guidelines for all of the things that are going to be required from our business?
The administration's working on it now. We've already started with that.
Okay.
SOPs.
Okay. All right.
Are there any other? All right, so you've heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. All right, thank you. Ordinance 2025-06 has been passed for the first reading. Finally, first reading of ordinance 2025-8, amending Division 2 of Article 6, Code Enforcement.
Ordinance 2025-8, ordinance of the town of Eatonville, Florida, amending Division 2 of Article 6, Code Enforcement of Chapter 2, Administration of the Town's Code of to dissolve the Code Enforcement Board and establish provisions for code enforcement, special magistrate, providing for a codification, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Right, you've heard the preamble.
So I'll start this off. Per discussion during budget workshops and different discussions with council, this has been the recommendation of going at. So at this point, I talked with Attorney Shepherd and I'm gonna defer for him to go into more detail on it.
Yeah, this is really a wise move. It would be a wise move in a big city. It's an extremely wise move in a small. I haven't experienced it personally, but based on reports, it has been something that members of the board at various times have struggled with in terms of what is an appropriate amount of time to recure a violation, what is an appropriate amount of fine, and various other things. And candidly, as someone who sits as a code magistrate, the issues are complicated, and it's not helpful when members of the board are not always present, so you have alternates coming in and so forth. So there's not a lot of consistency. With a magistrate, he or she, which you would have to go through a process of picking, there's a process for that always thing. Two, you would get an attorney that you wouldn't have to, but that would be the smart. Get an attorney who's familiar with chapter 162, which is the code enforcement chapter, and would understand the burden of proof, which is on the town to prove violations, would understand what constitutes a valid defense, and would be able to take in consideration of things that a judge would take in, because essentially a magistrate is a different term for a judge. And they then determine, okay, well, the town will make a recommendation, perhaps if, for example, if Mr. Nokashari, I'm saying his name right, I know I'll get that wrong, and I apologize. But if he's there and he says, I recommend that the violation be cured in 30 days or a fine of $100 per day thereafter obtained, then the magistrate has the ability to say, well, I think 30 days is too long. You got an open swimming pool that's a hazard, there's no fence around it, somebody could drown. I think it needs to be done in 10 days. The magistrate could do that. Alternatively, if the same recommendation is for a fallen fence, and they're saying 30 days, and the magistrate talks to the violator or respondent and finds out somebody's in the hospital, been away because of a mom or dad with cancer or whatever the issue may be, they may say, you know what, I think we're going to give you some grace. I think we'll give you 90 days, but in the 91st day, your fines are going to start to accrue. So make sure you make this a priority. I know this because I do it literally every month. And so that's the advantage of having a magistrate. If you pick the right one, they try to balance not only what the city wants or the town wants, but also what are the special circumstances of the individual that may appertain. In my own case, I have a bias against anything that's going to be a health safety issue. If you've got a pool problem, I'm going to make you fix that now because I don't want to kid around it on my watch. If you got, I had one a couple months ago where there was a literal light pole. Don't ask me why. Somebody was constantly parking their car under this light pole, which could have fallen at any minute. They got to fix that like now. And so those are the things, that's how I see it. But whoever your magistrate is, that's who you look for. So when you go through the process, say, okay, I think we want to do this. Let's go ahead and first read this ordinance and get it through, and then second read it, but put a time future on it and give you time to hire a magistrate. Then you put out not an RFQ, but an RFP, which is they give you their services, qualifications, and their bid amount. And then you choose that person, or you decide to interview 2 or 3 and then pick the one that you think personality wise fits. And once they sit in the chair, they do exactly what I do. They listen to the case from the town, they listen to the respondents. And in all the time I've been doing it now, which is about 4 years, there's been only 2 cases that I can remember where there was an actual fence mounted. Usually it's there's some excuse, sometimes valid, sometimes not so much. And you try to figure out a way to work with them. And some things are a lot worse than others in the eyes of that particular code. As an example, take down what they call a specimen tree, one of them are a certain size that is not going to be replaced. That carries a minimum $5,000 fine. If you didn't get a permit, and it's not a diseased tree, that's an expensive date you do not want. And every time I decided, it frustrates me because it didn't variable. Well, I was at my church and the guy told me at the church that he was a good tree cutter and he didn't, I didn't know I needed the permit. That free tree cutting cost me $5,000 because it was not a diseased tree. So my point is, in the realm of code enforcement, it covers a lot of ground. It's not just always junk and trash. It's broken windows. It's pools that aren't covered. It's fences that are falling down. It's cars on blocks. It's a whole lot of stuff. And so for any civilian, and here, particularly where the town is so small, they're likely to know the people that are in front of them. It's hard for those people to adequately kind of stick to the code, try to avoid the emotion, and come to a consensus amongst themselves. So that's why it's a good idea to do a magistrate.
Thank you. All right, this item is now open for public discussion. If you would like to speak to this item, please go to the lectern, state your name.
Angela Johnson, again, I encourage you to pass this on the first reading and the second reading. I sat in code enforcement meetings, where a board member, and unfortunately, the attorney was not aware of it until it was brought to their attention after they had voted. It actually voted for a violation that was for a family member instead of recusing themselves. So I see having a magistrate as us moving forward with clearing a number of violations, which we know we all see throughout our community. As the attorney mentioned, it will remove unbiasedness, and I just as well as, like you say, presenting some balance. My question is, so in the interim, the existing board would continue to exist until
The magistrate has been selected and can step in. Otherwise, code enforcement would come to a halt and it would be several months before it would resume. So I presume, I mean, that's not my call, but my presumption is you wanted to continue to do something.
Okay. All righty. And so yeah, so I think it again, as you mentioned, it's a wise move. Because we see our board members struggling. And that's not just to say anything personal against anyone. And it keeps us removing some conflict of interest and to be able to move forward with cleaning up the town, which we know we need. There's another piece that need to happen. So I encourage you to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Seeing that there are none, we now close it to public participation. You've heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
Second. Daniels. Daniels. Daniels got it.
Who moved it?
Nice to know.
Second by Daniels.
I say second by Mac.
Okay, you already called it.
No, I'm just making sure you got it.
Yes,
So it's been moved.
did I have Mac? Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right. Ordinance 2025-8 first reading has been approved. We're now ready for the consent agenda, which does not include item number 2. Is there a motion?
Move.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, and so we'll go to item RFQ 25-09-003, the engineering selection for water and sewer. Read the preamble again. Christine?
Yes. Let me pull that up. Resolution 2025 we just 36.
It's the RFQ 20.
2509.
Resolution. It's just
RFQ 25, approval of RFQ 25090 Three, engineering selection. So this is where they had the rankings and you're gonna approve or not approve the rankings.
I have to pull it from the consent. I should already have it done.
So, I mean, it's just a document. Is there a preamble?
No, I don't think there's a preamble because.
Okay, so it's just a,
You have a
Yeah, this didn't
recommendation.
come with a resolution.
okay, they come with a resolution. All right, here we go.
You had a recommendation from your
Yes.
consulting
For the
engineering
design
firm.
group.
And they said, here are our rankings in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5, was that, is it 5?
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Top was, as I remember, was CPH, second was GAI, I can't remember the other two in
Spectra.
order. Spectra, and then there's a.
WBQ.
And so that's their order, and then the question will be if you approve their order. And then if you do, their next step will be to start negotiations with CPH. If that doesn't work out, they move to GAI, and so.
All right, so is there a motion to accept the design pool presented?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved,
Question,
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councilman,
you kind of spoke on this on workshop and, I just wanted to say for the record, it's not that I don't trust and believe in the law. I trust and believe in the law and, value it. I just don't particularly like this particular, process and know how it's done. So, I can't, agree with moving forward with approving this, no matter what it's going to, but it's just my thoughts on it. But I know that we're gonna start at the top with CPH. And I just got a different, outlook on how I look at it, and, that's where I stand with that, so.
all right, but as long as we follow the law, I don't see.
I know, but it's your opinion, right?
I wasn't speaking,
Oh.
I was looking at Ms. Attorney Shepherd.
Yeah, no, like I stated, I personally believe, what he's saying, do I believe a lot of things that's, being presented to us in terms of what's law? I respect the law, but I don't agree with it, put it that way.
I'll answer it this way. There are a ton of things that I have to tell people the law that I think are stupid. A ton. This doesn't happen to be on that list, but there's a lot of them I could think of right now. One of them being SB 180, that I think are stupid, but they're the law. Now, having said that, I want to make sure you understand what your options are here. One option is the one that's on the table to approve the 4 rankings in the order that they were given to you by the committee that you asked to do the work. But you've also been provided the information individually about how they got there. So if you wanted to open a discussion about whether you think that the rankings were incorrect, or you wanted a different ranking because of how you viewed the qualifications and how you viewed the criteria, you could do that. You have that freedom, and I don't want to give you the wrong idea. But the reason you had a committee that would study it and do all the work is so when it got to this point, you wouldn't be put in that position, but you have the freedom to do that.
And I know several times we've gone through the, process of rankings, and a lot of times we believe in it, a lot of times we don't. I'm not saying so much that I don't believe in this committee. I trust and believe in the process and that they went about doing it. I just don't per se, like the way that it was really structured in terms of the fairness. You know what I'm saying? Because we keep speaking on the fairness. And I know you say this is a different law when it comes to the bidding process of it, because that's why it's kind of foreign to me. Like, I'm like, man, I thought it was about the bidding process and getting the best and low bid, but a quality bid also, not necessarily the one that holds the stature of having the best quality in a sense, right? Because in that terms, I feel like all of them are qualified and meet the standard of doing whatever it is we need to do, because if they weren't, they wouldn't even be on the list probably, right?
In that regard, the committee agrees with you because they wouldn't be putting them on the list with a ranking if they didn't deem they were qualified. So in that regard, the committee, I can speak for them without even knowing them. There were a couple that didn't make the list. So you can infer from that they didn't think for whatever reason, that they met what they believe were the minimum qualifications.
Right, and I know going into like, actually reading over the list and looking at all the rankings, and there was a lot of close
Right.
rankings that was done in the process of it, right? But CPH not being biased to them because they do a lot of work for the town, right? So we've had an opportunity to have them do a lot of scope of work that is done on the engineering side of it. But I think just in all fairness, and I know we can probably come to that conclusion when we do the processing of starting with CPH. Hey, do you agree with this amount? And maybe they do, and then boom, they just eliminate everybody else that's involved in the process, which I don't think is fair. You know what I'm saying? Because I already feel like CPH has already, they're the engineer of the company. They're of this town, so they're pretty much essentially doing a majority and bulk of the work that we need done on the engineer side. So I'm looking at fairness right now. That's what I'm looking at, and nothing against CPH at all. I don't want to hit them a load of belt, but I want to give other people an opportunity to have that leeway to go down the path of doing something for the town as well and building relationships with not just CPH but other people across. So, like I said, it's just my opinion how I look at it. I value how the law works. I don't agree with it necessarily, but I do respect it and value it. Anything that has to do with law, and that's just my position on that.
Thank you. All right, so it has,
I have a question.
yes, Vice Mayor.
First of all, I don't know, you can't read the proposal this company gave us, so I'm just going on this score sheet right here. We got 13 columns. I see one company, score 9. Out of 9 columns, score higher than some others. And some of them are in the other company, the number 2 company. Some of them, they have 6 of them, 6 columns, they had the same number. So I don't know how we weighed out the ranking, but Spectrum Engineering have like I said, 8 out of 13 columns are higher than some of the others, or even with some of them. So I'm trying to see, and with number 2, some of their numbers the same. So I don't know how they weigh these numbers out. But if that's the issue with, that's what I have issue with, those 2 and 3. I mean 3 and 4, 2 and 4. Those 2, if they could be on the same level. But like I said, I just weighed it out. Their numbers higher than some of the other numbers, and then I hit ahead of them. So I don't have an issue with 2 and 4.
So this is about pool. So they're in the pool.
Okay, I just did my little homework. Okay, thanks. Stay the
I
same.
mean, they're in the, they're the top 4.
Okay.
If I may, this is my last thing. I know they're in the pool, right? Everybody's in the pool, but it's almost like an athlete. You got a 5-star, you got a 4-star, you got a 3-star. Not all the time that these 5 stars perform like 4 and 3 stars. And not taking anything away from CPH, who's the highest one, 5-star. I've known 5 stars just this past year to attend college, and a large percentage of them didn't even play. And guess who's playing? The 4s and the 3s. But that's for another day. But I just want to be completely fair across the board and not hitting anyone below the belt, because that's not my intentions. But my intentions are to be fair across the board as a leader. And I know that I do trust the committee and their process and how they did it. Do I agree necessarily with how it was done? Just like Vice Mayor Washington just said, it's different variables on how some grade and then how some don't grade. Some are better at some things than others, right? So that's how it was categorized. And I think just to the fairness of each engineering company, that everybody get a fair shake instead of us just sitting here starting at the top. You know what I'm saying? And especially what comes to mind to me, and I know it's not a conflict of interest now because it was displayed and told to me by Tony Shepard, what I put my trust in, that is not a conflict of interest. You know what I'm saying? But that was one of the red flags that kind of raised the flag with me and making my decision even before coming into this meeting. I felt like I was like, man, it seems like, because of the matter of them already being so affiliated with, the town, but doing so much work within the town, you know? So, you know, I'm all about opportunity and giving other people the opportunity to, you know, somewhat prove themselves and come to the table and, you know, eat with us. You know what I'm saying? So I want everybody to eat at the end of the day. So that's my, position on it, and that's what I'm standing on, so.
All right, so you've heard the motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
Nay.
All right, so the RFQ 25090003 has been approved. The next item is resolution 2025-36, solid waste annual increase. The preamble is good.
Resolution number 2025-36, a resolution of the town of Eatonville concerning garbage collection, solid waste rate increase through and including fiscal year 2025-2026, with the start date of January 1st, 2026, repealing all resolutions in conflict wherewith, providing for conflicts, severability of any part of this resolution declared invalid, and providing for an effective date.
You have heard the resolution. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Question.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilman.
Yes, with this particular item, I know I know it's essential that we do, raise the, prices, which is up to 12%, right?
It was a 12% increase for solid waste disposal and land.
So now we have to raise the price while we won't take the fault and having any kind of negative impact. So I get that. So how do we come up with the, figure that we came up with?
So we took what the rate was and then the cost of doing business. So basically we were making pennies. But if we don't increase this, Councilman, we could be looking at
Right.
$50,000 that we're losing out on.
Right.
So we came up with a calculated rate of going through increasing it across the board. And this has been since we signed this new contract back in, I don't know, Ms. Gibson, I forgot the exact date that we signed.
This year, earlier this year.
Yeah, so that, and then we didn't do the increase then either. So it was the increase in price then, which we didn't do, and then now the increase with the county will make us be taking a negative loss on it. So it was a roughly around a 20% increase in order to be able to do the business and all that.
So we actually had a higher increase.
Because you had 12% from the county.
Right.
And then also the increase in fees with the new contract was never passed on to the residents. So during this time, we have been eating the price. We've been eating that.
Right, and then I want to speak on that, but I do it during my report because I know I spoke about the reimbursement of, and that's a that's a whole.
Okay, the water.
Yes,
I'm in the process of that, so we'll definitely talk about that.
so I wanted to speak about it in my report then, because you and I can have a sit down about that, because
Yes, sir.
that's something that's near and dear to how I feel about everything that have came down the pipeline concerning that. So.
Yes, sir. We're working diligently.
But I know we definitely gotta do the increase, and I just want people to have a better understanding of, and I'm glad you explained it the way you did publicly, why the people that we serve could have that understanding versus sitting here just tossing numbers out that they're not having an understanding about, and just saying this and saying that. These are things that we gotta do if we don't wanna be in a deficit.
It's about this 20% because you got 12%,
Right.
and then the amount of the rate that went up from the previous provider was never passed on. So in order to encompass that we are not taking a loss, we calculated that.
I get it. All right, that's all I have.
Vice Mayor.
A lot of things are going up before I left home, I seen the OUC going up on that wastewater, $3 every year. So this was going on Florida Power. These people are going up 2026, they're going up. So to keep our city self-sustainable, we must be on the same path of these other cities, what they're doing too. And stewards and our citizens, hey, tell even that's how we survived in the days. The citizens made me feel what it was. Not other companies, developers, not like that. The citizens.
That is a beautiful understanding.
Because if you remember the days when everybody water goes $44, If you don't remember them days, those what, that day's over with. So, yeah, so just look at it now. We was surviving then, we got to survive now with these increases. So that's what we got to stand on these prices, so.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, 2025-36 has been approved. We're now ready for resolution 2025-38, establishing a canvassing board. Ms. Lee.
Yes. I apologize. I had these things marked.
Mhm.
I had these things marked. I can't find them.
It's only 12 o'clock.
A little bit.
Here it is. Here it is. You say 20, this 38. Okay. Resolution 2025-38. Resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Eatonville, Florida, establishing a canvassing board for the March 7, 2026 general election and appointing the designated members, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date.
You have heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
We have to,
No, we
Yeah,
gotta select.
we have to have.
So, Mayor, Council, I asked you all for recommendations. I did get two, recommendation names.
Oh, I thought they were,
Yeah, so, and if you don't want to add on, I can just tell you the two names that was provided to me prior to the meeting. If there's anybody else to add on, then we can go from there. I was trying to make sure we don't get in a stall, because if not, then we'll have to move it to the next meeting. Yes, ma'am. So, the two names I have so far, is Miss Kara McIntyre and Miss Stephanie Goins, and then Councilman Matt said is Miller Levesque also.
Miller Levat is currently serving on a board.
Right.
Okay, so
you can't serve two boards, right?
Okay, so we have two names. Unless anyone has any other name, we got the two names provided.
I don't want to say anybody else's name without consulting with them, so I don't have anybody.
All right,
That would be my question. Have these people been contacted and,
And I said, yeah, but that's why I
Yes.
said.
okay.
Those names came from those respective, which is Vice Mayor Washington and Councilwoman Randolph provided the names.
So how many do we have to have?
Two plus the clerk makes the board.
So we got two, right?
Yes,
So we have it. Correct?
yes, we have it.
Yeah, so we all set.
all right, so it has been moved and seconded with those two names. All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed. All right, it has been approved. The last item, resolution 2025-39, it is the resolution that was on your table.
You ready for the preamble?
Preamble, yeah.
Resolution 2025-29, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Eatonville, Florida, appointing a technical review committee to review the proposal master plan of Baker Barrios for compliance with the Land Development Code and other applicable technical standards, providing for conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date.
You've heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a question. Attorney Shepherd, I'm asking you to weigh in. It just, if we have
Okay. I can weigh in general. The first thing I would weigh in is a technical advisory committee means they're technically qualified to be advisory. So this is not, would not, certainly can, you have the authority to do whatever you'd like. But you'd be looking to, if you're going to review another professional's work, you would typically have it reviewed by a professional, like a peer review. So if it's engineering from Baker Barrios, master planning, whatever, you would have to go to another engineering firm or planning firm or people within the town who have those skill sets. I don't know who that would be. So maybe architects, engineers, planners, whatever. So that's the first thing I would point out as sort of a general observation. Secondarily, as I understood from the resolution, just from the preamble, it was to ensure essentially that it complies with code and the comp plan. Part of a master plan would be that if you liked it, you would change the code and the comp plan to match what the master plan said. So for example, if the master plan is limited to a specific area like Hungerford, that's going to look different than a master plan that's for the entire town of Eatonville. But if I assume it's for the entire town of Eatonville, then the master plan would look at, okay, these are the areas where we should support high density. These are the areas where we should support lower density. This is where we should put our commercial corridor and so forth. And if the zoning didn't fit those locations, it's irrelevant whether it's inconsistent, because at the point at which you decide, I like this, then you change the zoning to match it. Now, there are some exceptions, and one of the exceptions would be you have people who are already in certain categories, right? And we talked about earlier, non-conforming use. So you need to make sure you don't zone them out of conformity or create additional headaches from. So that's part of the consideration as well. And that is something where a technical review committee might have some help. Might be able to say, hey, in this area where they set up for high density, there's several single family homes in the area that don't want that. And we don't want to put them in a situation where they got apartments next door. Let's tweak it, or let's figure out how to address it. Those things could be identified by a technical review committee, but they also could and should be reviewed by the people who are putting together the master plan for whether they make a practical fit. The obvious person who would be on any technical review committee would be your contract under Ms. Salmieri. But who else within this? Who else would be on here? It says town engineer, which right now that would be, I guess, CPH. Is that right? Somebody from there. My name is listed there. Do the best I can. So that I don't know mining GCI president, but I do know Mr. Jackson. And so these are people who certainly by credentials could be helpful to you. If you chose to put together this committee, it could do that. But in terms of what their assignment would be, it's just important to remember that it's a master plan because you're making the plan. And so if it didn't fit what you currently have, but you liked it, you would change what you have to fix it, to match it.
And I guess in our current process right now, we already, when it's needed, we already have, as part of our ordinance, we already have, where we will have a technical review of whatever project it is. Am I correct? And could this be a conflict?
Well, it depends. I know what you mean, technical review. What most cities have, and I assume you have something similar, it may or may not go by this name, but it's because some places they call it technical review committee, other places they call it DRC or developer review committee.
Yeah.
But that committee is a little bit different. That committee, you got typically the police chief or his designee, the fire chief or his designee, the public works director or their designee.
Right.
And they are weighing in on issues that are within their discipline.
Right.
Like with this project as proposed, this bar in this location create extra law enforcement issues that we need to address. We turn to Chief Murray or his designee. Do we have water capacity to suit this business, which is going to use a lot of water? It's a new bar, whatever it is. And that's public works. Do we have the ability to control parking in the area? And that would come through also potentially public works and or planning, which would be Ms. Salmieri. How do we address it? Things of that nature, but it's different than whether it's consistent with what you already have, because it can't even come through you unless it's consistent with what you have. But a master plan is a different thing, because a master, somebody who's coming through the DRC is already trying to be consistent with your zoning, or they're requesting a rezoning or a change to the comp plan. Your master plan is saying, I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm saying, based on the way it currently lays out transportation corridors, the current business use and so forth, I think this is how the pieces of the puzzle should be taken apart and put back together. And like if we consider it like a quadrant, so maybe this should be the business quadrant. So we should have zonings in here that are appropriate for that. This is the residential quarter. Okay, that's where we're going to put that. This is going to be the cultural quarter over here. This is where we're going to have our parks and recreation. Now it's never that simple, But that's kind of the idea of a master.
So what exactly are we looking to approve?
This is a resolution that sets up a technical review committee to look at the master plan that's being put together by Baker Berrios. And based on what I understood, it's for consistency with existing zoning and comp plans. But my only point is, if it's not, and you like the plan, you just simply change the zoning and the comp plan.
So everybody that just listed is on that list, including yourself.
Yeah, I didn't put my name, I didn't know I was on there, but yes.
No, that's my point I'm trying to get to, like, you know, I don't wanna,
It just.
intervene with putting people on the list that they're not aware of, but in the same token, if you don't have an issue with them on that list, I guess that's something that we can probably.
My biggest issue, and I'm glad you asked the question, because I've asked this, I explained this to, I believe it was Ms. Randolph. I shouldn't be on any committees except as legal advisor for a simple reason. I'm not supposed to be taking a personal voting interest in literally anything.
Yeah.
But as a legal advisor to the committee, and they said, does this consistent with, we're worried, does this consistent with, I can tell them legally, as a legal opinion, it is or it isn't. But I'm not, you don't want your legal advisor to be conflicted out of representing you if there's an issue. And if I'm on the committee, as a committee member, I have a conflict with representing you on that issue.
I know there's something that Councilwoman Randall can.
It's just not spelled out, but it's a legal.
As a legal advisor,
He's
that's
an
what-
advisor.
So it doesn't necessarily have to
Doesn't
be-
say that, but that's what it
separate.
is. He's not a
So we
part
can-
of the
We
committee.
can get someone else perhaps.
Sure.
Okay, so that's, okay, well, I'm in favor of that.
Same thing.
Well, again, if he's sitting, if Mr. Jackson is sitting in the capacity of looking at things from a CRA perspective as a legal advisor, no issue.
Right.
But neither of us should be voting on this is bad or this is good, or we like the plan or we don't like. That's not our role, because I don't live here. And even if I did live here, if I was your attorney, I have to be sort of Switzerland.
Without even having the list right now, people that we could projectly put on there, we can, I guess, down the road, select people to sit on that particular committee.
Sure.
So I think that's what she's referencing to also, instead of just tossing names out there like yourself, because you gotta make people aware of boards that they're gonna be possibly sitting on also. So, I'm in favor of, moving in the direction of, building that committee and selecting the people that I think are qualified to sit in the capacity of handling that particular, committee also. So, yeah, I'm in favor of it.
And,
Versus sitting here just having people like yourself already included in that, you ain't had no idea about it. That I don't think that's something that we should be doing.
I guess my final question is, do we need a committee to look at a document that was already out there for?
I think so. I think an overview of other people looking at stuff
It was.
will put a magnifying glass on exactly what we're doing because of things that have happened in the past. I think that's why we're going in the direction that we're going in. Not me per se, but I understand her frustration with what's been done to us. What's been done to us. I don't even want to get into the topic of that, but I'm pretty sure you know what's been done to us.
Yeah, I
So-
would think that this is in the best interest of the town, the technical review committee. The master plan last meeting was about 2 months ago. And nothing has since then. We just sitting here. And nothing else, no plan presented to the council to us. So we want to be able to move forward to get a technical review committee of professionals. And if each one of you all have at least one person that you would like, technical person with professions would like to be added to this, you're more than welcome to do so.
I agree with you 100%. And another thing I can add also, Mayor, before you go. See, the thing is right here, people don't understand it, and this is for the public to understand, people that are watching. This is not only for the 117 acres, okay, that we're talking about in terms of the master plan. This is for the entirety of the town. So that's a whole nother monster that we're dealing with. And that's what people need to be educated on. Instead of sitting here talking about all the 117 acres, no, it ain't just that. You gotta let people know that it's the entire town that have been involved in this master plan that we're possibly gonna present, but it's gotta make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's, so I can appreciate people like Ms. Randolph, I'm sorry, Ms. Randolph, Ms. Councilwoman Randolph, for bringing something like this to the table for us to really put a magnifying glass on, because I know I don't want to. What happened is what happened to us a couple of months ago, not even a couple of months ago, is something that I don't want to go down the direction of even experiencing again in the town. So I welcome this, what you're bringing to the table, Councilwoman Randolph.
You know, if I was the mayor, I would be happy to have a technical review team for the master plan. I don't think I would oppose to it. And if I did, I don't know what your reason would be. So now, what is your reason that you do not want to have a technical review committee for the master plan for your town?
Attorney Schiff. Here's a specific question. If Councilwoman Randolph would like an advisory meeting for her son, she can do that, correct? And so then here's my question. Is this usually something that's brought by the council or by the mayor? Just a charter question.
Well, committees are established through the charter by the council, so that is the case. And there was a couple of questions about that. You said, could Ms. Randolph have a committee? The answer is no, but she can consult with whomever she wishes to find out questions like,
Correct.
is this consistent with the comp plan and so forth? So any of these people individually or whatever. So there's no issue there. And in terms of whether I guess one of the question was, is this like always the case or typically the case? That's an impossible question to answer.
And I think you answered it already.
Yes.
When you said it is established by the council, which takes me to our getting rid of code enforcement.
Yes.
Because it's difficult to keep people on accounts on the
Yes.
board. This is another board. Am I
Yeah,
right?
it would be another thing, sunshine, but everything else. That's one of the reasons why, for sure, Mr. Jackson and myself could not, and would not want to be committee members.
No.
Because we have to talk to everybody and we'd be violating sunshine.
So we have to create a board.
And so the other thing is, if the meetings are going to be called by the CRA director and some of the persons, on here are CRA tagged, would this not be something that is brought forward on the CRA side? That's my other
It
question.
could. It says TRC coordinator. Well, to me, a meeting coordinator is like, and I was making this analogy to Mrs. King, the clerk who sends out the notice of the meetings, he sends out the agendas and so forth. But that doesn't mean they're like the chair of the committee anymore. Than when she doesn't tell you how to run the agenda. She just says, here's the agenda that y'all asked me to put together. And says, here's where the meeting is. So I don't think that's necessarily an issue, as long as he doesn't mind doing it within whatever his responsibilities are, because this would be an additional responsibility for him.
Okay.
But for these other people that would serve on the committee potentially, I assume is somebody from CPH, Tara, or somebody for her being a committee chair would be okay. I do not know if it's Ben Levenger or whatever, but you know, assuming he's willing and able to serve, he could certainly do that. My only concern about some of these people is I don't know how many of them are going to do this for free. You don't generally
That's my
take
last
committee
question.
members, okay? The reason for a committee is to have people in the town who are willing to serve. And that's why I emphasize making sure that when you pick them, that they have the qualifications needed to actually be of assistance to you. But if they were willing to serve, you know, I assume CPH would want to be paid. In this some area, doesn't want to spend a free night, that's not being compensated and so forth. So the problem with this committee is not so much the concept, but it's just saying that we're going to use all our professionals, call them a committee, means they're now subject to sunshine. So that means they have some limitations on what they can discuss and with whom they can discuss it outside of a noticed meeting. And that's potentially problematic. So if you said, what is my overall concern? It's not about the committee itself. It's about who's going to be on it because of sunshine. Because you want to be able to talk to, if you're Miss Salmieri, you want to be able to talk to the town engineer without violating the sunshine. If you're the town engineer, you want to be able to talk to the CRA planning consultant without violating the sunshine and so forth. And that's why that's an issue. That's why you would typically look for citizens, but who have the qualifications to serve in this capacity. Then you would have me or somebody from my office to sit down. Okay, let me explain to you sunshine and public records law. That'd be the first meeting.
That seems like that's gonna affect their effectiveness in working with something that comes under,
Yeah.
that would be under the discussion.
Yeah, as professionals, this would limit your professionals. That's why you would typically want to use people within the town who are not your professionals, so they aren't having their hands tied by the sunshine and public record.
They never listen to all these languages and listen.
Have to be.
All the different languages that I'm listening to now, right? And I respect you for kind of like, giving us the understanding of making it clear to us that it could be some kind of violation under, Florida sunshine, whatever, right? But I think if we submit ourselves, Ms. Randolph, Ms. Councilman Randolph, that is, to possibly create a committee, right? That does consist of people that are qualified to serve this without being paid, right? Because essentially you want to go out and get, citizens within the community. Just like no different than board members. You know what I'm saying? They don't get paid to sit on these
That's
boards.
exactly.
So that's what we need to be committed to, I think, versus sitting here trying to get people that we will possibly have to pay. Not saying that it's concrete that we have to pay these particular people that sits in these, different seats that does work for us, right? Like yourself, I know you would want to get paid probably. And then again, maybe you're not.
Surprisingly enough, I don't mind working for the town in certain capacities for free. And my first job here was to give a lecture about how CRAs work, and the mayor will remember that. It was attended by exactly 2 council members and about 4 citizens.
But there, I know you can't. I know you can't because you've already just, displayed that. And but I think in a nutshell, we should still go down the direction of trying to build a committee, even though we don't have one established right now.
I don't disagree with that.
Right.
If that's what your direction is, I wanted to point out the sunshine issue because particularly for consultants you're relying on heavily like Ms. Salmieri, the last thing you want to do is tie her hands as to who she can talk to within the town because they also serve on the same committee.
So I don't think that should have been an option. That's just my opinion.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not the one that came up with all these different names
But
and.
Mr. King did raise a point which I should share with you because this is a possibility, and it's particularly because of Eatonville being Eatonville. There are maybe people, you don't have to have it be residents. You could have people who are from outside the town, but have these skills and have an interest in Eatonville and would say, you know what, I'd serve on that. I'd help them out. I'd go out there and help them look at this thing. I have credentials and this is something I would enjoy doing. So there might be those people. I don't know how to find them. But I
You
just,
have to vet that and well, if that's something that she want to do primarily, I think that's something that she's gonna have to tackle and bring back to this board while we could, of course, approve whoever the committee is gonna be, while we can move forward with doing what it is that she want to do particularly, and having someone that's kind of like the overseer of the overseer, you know what I'm saying?
you
If that
can
makes
have
sense.
this resolution be changed on the fly, meaning you could do it tonight if you chose. To say, we want to establish a technical review committee, membership of which will be made up of professionals that are willing to serve volunteer basis for the town. And we would ask the members of the council and staff, if they want to participate, to come back with some name recommendations so we can reach out to these people and see if they'll serve. And then, so you set up that there's going to be a committee, you're not committing to who it will be, and then you give yourself a couple of weeks or a month or whatever to go see if you can find some people.
I think that's a great idea, and we can appreciate the language that you just gave us, because I think that's what should have been done from the beginning. I can't speak for Ms. Councilman Randolph, but I think if I'm coming with something like this, I'm gonna have some names attached to it that I've already spoken to people about. And I know it was probably one of the things that was kind of like, she did not expecting to have the, feedback that she's getting now. But I think we can go around this and do something that's gonna make sense also by, collectively selecting people that could serve on that committee that she wanna put together versus the ones that she's already selected in her mind and go a different direction. There are people that are not gonna be looking to get paid as well, you know what I'm saying? Because that's
I won't
one
even
of the most
name the
important
names,
things.
but there are a number of organizations, some of which everybody up on this board has heard of, who have a real interest in Eatonville, who don't live here, but have a lot of
So maybe you
qualifications.
can give her a list of the people that you think that can work also. But that's just a thought. But I definitely want to move forward with approving this to get to a possibility of having a committee though. I definitely want to do that.
Okay, yeah, Baker Barrios completed a town master plan for development within the town trees. Who they had on their board? Did they have Solomon on their board, planner? She probably ain't seen this plan, but some things she didn't see that went on, I just don't know.
I think
But-
everybody sucks.
Yeah, they haven't been brought to the council yet, so, I've been probably been presented over there on County School Board probably, but not us. So my main thing is that, with the people we have on here, don't participate, that's fine today, but we definitely need to put people in place to oversee these contracts, or not contracts, but oversee these plans, make sure best interest for the time you do. That's all I have.
Well, I would recommend that what you had suggested earlier about doing this. Some of these have been verified, some of them, you couldn't get in contact with everyone. Okay, I had spoken to you yesterday, maybe you misinterpret what I
About
was.
being legal
About
advisor.
being, yeah, that's what we had talked about yesterday pertaining to this. So what we can do tonight is we can still move forward, but maybe just not list it, maybe just not list the names right now.
Establish a committee.
Establish,
And that's
yes.
it.
So maybe we can put that language together, Ms. King. Attorney,
Yeah, it's a resolution. So what, I'll just tell you how it would be, and that way you'll know at least what you're voting on. So I would, keep section 1, creation of a technical review committee, for the proposed, Baker Barrios master plan evaluating compliance with the town meeting and development code and all other applicable regulations. I would strike section 2 in its entirety. I would say that section 3 is okay if Mr. Johnson wants to do it and doesn't mind that it's part of his job responsibilities. I'd leave section 4 about what their duties and responsibilities are. I would add a new section 5, and then I'd renumber everything after that. That would say that members of the town council, and if you want to include staff, that's up to you, but members of the town council are requested to come back with names, people who are qualified to serve on the committee for the council to consider appointment by some date. Whether that's the next meeting or the first meeting in January or whatever, that's up to y'all, but that's what I would do, so that primarily you guys would be bringing back the recommendations. And if you said, you know what, I think we ought to open it up to some people on staff too, that's okay. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, you guys are going to decide. And that will give you the impetus to not only go out and contact people with the qualifications, and they don't have to be within the town. And see if they'll serve voluntarily. They'll have the resolution so that you can provide it to them and see this is what your job would be. Would you be willing to participate? I would suspect that it's a larger number than you think that would volunteer their services to help you with this. If they have the right credentials, just because of the historic nature of the town.
I couldn't agree more.
Right, so the only other thing is on section 1, the last. So are we saying that the technical, environmental, engineering and regulatory requirements?
That would be a part of what they're
So the
supposed to.
persons that are elected would need to have some or at least something.
Y'all will decide that, but for example, and I'm picking on you because you're the easiest one to say, if you brought back a school teacher, well, what subject? If it's math and algebra, maybe not. If it's land planning, maybe.
So when we are soliciting someone to be on this board, then we need to keep this in mind. What area they're gonna fall in.
That's the whole idea.
I just wanna make certain that.
Because it's subject to appointment by all of you. So if you bring back somebody who clearly doesn't seem to meet the criterion for being helpful, then you would say, well, I like the fact they volunteered, but I don't think they have what we're looking for. And this is not an uncommon issue. You'll have 5 people apply for Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 2 of whom have never served on any board, 1 of whom has been a former recreation director in a big city, and then maybe a couple of others who have served in other boards but no experience on PRAB or the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and it's, you have a standout candidate. They were former recreation director. That's the one you're end up picking. It doesn't mean the others aren't good
Right.
or might not be qualified.
So in a nutshell, all of us gonna be responsible for selecting someone that's qualified to serve on.
Or someone's, I mean.
Like, I'm just, you know. Okay,
So, so he's saying that you can come back, so if you know an engineer, you can bring back an engineer. If you know an economist, you can bring back an engineer and an economist.
Yeah.
As long as they fit within the criteria of being technical.
Because y'all haven't set up a number, so it could be 3, 5, it should not be an odd number, but it should be 3, 5, 7, 9. If you have a bunch and you like them all, you know, no problem.
I guess.
People are missing. It's not saying Uber Eats to us.
All right. So
Uber Eats.
it has been moved and seconded with the stated
Yeah.
adjustments. And that would not include any names.
No name.
Okay, so everyone would bring,
And what's the deadline that you want to come back with your own
You wanna come
recommendation?
back
Next meeting.
by,
January?
first meeting in January or the next meeting? Say the 19th.
Probably be farther than that because we have a meeting. Sorry. Don't.
Because I'm gonna take this and modify to what y'all have approved, but I just did that today.
The next scheduled meeting is 16.
Oh, the 16th.
Yeah, third, that's the third.
I mean, is that, I'm just putting out there, is that enough reasonable time to get candidates and all that kind of stuff? And you know, yeah, get through the holidays and all that, so.
Let's say the first. Let's say the first.
We go to 16th.
About 16th of December?
I think we're gonna have, then that's gonna actually put us in a position to probably table it because we're not gonna have those people. So I think we should be subject to just say January, the first meeting in January. That'd be the ideal thing to do. I think that's just using common sense because like you said, if we sit here and put ourselves in a position to try to tackle this and finding somebody, we're not gonna find someone. We're not.
all right, so January sixth. All right, January sixth. I don't like that date. I don't like that date, January sixth.
January.
All right, so it has been moved. It has been,
We're gonna have an introduction right here.
so it has been moved and seconded with the stated amendments. January sixth date
Yes.
is, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay.
Hmm.
All right, that's the last thing. CA.
I'm gonna go through mine real quick. Just give you all an update. We had a great meeting with the city of Apopka, the mayor, the finance department, and we had chief there, we had clerk, we had public works, we had finance and recreation. It was a great meeting, came back with a lot of information that we can help tailor to get us in a better financial stance of operations and systems, and there's still more to come. Tasks that we're currently working on, updated personnel manuals at 25%, electronic permit is at 50%, payroll configurations at 75%. Our audit is still in the planning stage and it goes into testing mode at the end of December. We're still doing budget analysis and especially advanced policy revamp is at about 50%. Other tasks, Councilman Mack, as you were asking, on the water, we have pulled the data. So now we're formulating and trying to calculate. And hopefully, if it comes before the next council meeting, we'll go ahead and provide it to you. And then we can discuss it at a different time. Upcoming decisions, is a charitable donation policy. It has been reviewed by the attorney. That will be on the December 16, 2025 agenda. Effective to let you all know, come January 1st also, the town has been that fee will be passed back to the customers. That's the cost of doing business. I don't know when it was decided or who decided it that we weren't gonna pass that on. It was passed on online, but if you came in person, it wasn't. So just let everybody know there will be a sign come posted probably tomorrow that's going forward come January 1st. it'll be a 2.95% added to credit or debit cards, and if they pay with e-check is 1.95. But if they come in with cash, check, money order, there's no fee, just the cost. Dealing with the CRA, TIF payment is due by December 15, 2025. I've talked with the CRA director as well as Ms. Gibson, so we're all tracking on what the expectations are on both sides of putting the TIF in, getting the rebate back, one's kind of doing their part. Also, we know there's been a question about on the CRA budget dealing with $300 some $1,000. There's a meeting set on next Wednesday, December the 10th, between the CRA, myself, and Finance Department. We will come to a resolution on that. So that will be coming back to you as well. Something for you all to ponder, research, think about. We're researching also legislation right now. There's a possibility of talking about property taxes kind of going away. So we got to start thinking about what that implication could be for the town of Eatonville if we lose that money. So those are things that we have to be creatively thinking about. Last thing, hung for property. You all received email. I was working over Thanksgiving break, so you all were in communication and seeing that. As of today, we're waiting a draft contract between Dr. Phillips Sheridan and OCPS. They will be rescheduling the work session. And I state, this is coming from the chair, as I mentioned in previous email, although our work sessions do not include public comment and no action will be taken, time will be reserved for town council members as they elect the voters of Eatonville to share their views on the draft purchase and sales contract. Once the contract is received by me, I will be forwarding that to the attorney and you all simultaneously. If the attorney comes back with any red flags, whatever, then I will communicate that, or he will communicate that to you all. And then I'm also asking going forward, because this is such a transparent and such fluid amongst us right now, I ask that that I become the point of contact to be able to communicate with OCPS as well as Dr. Phillips Sheridan, so then I can be able to effectively communicate what is going on. Last, Christmas on the Boulevard is December 18th, and MLK Parade is January 17th. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Attorney.
I would love to tell you I have 30 minutes, of which I would give rapt attention. The good news is, Councilman, I don't know of any new lawsuits. Note the words, I don't know of any. Mr. Daniels, we've been sued, and I don't know. Okay, so that is the sum total of my report.
All right, thank you. Telford, you're good. All right, Councilwoman.
Yes, I don't have much of a report, but I have a question to ask about the cards. Are we sending a notice out to the residents about the rate increase or?
So there will be an FAQ that will go out that will be talking about the rate increase. It'll be talking about the fee. Everything will go out to everyone so they'll be properly communicated.
You know when it's going to go out?
I will get with staff and give you time. I'll give you an email
Okay.
on that.
Okay, I did have a question also for Mrs. King. It was last week. I wanted to know, what is the last day of an official, elected official, can hold their present office to run for another elected office?
It is my understanding, and our year could before it's before qualifying. But I read somewhere where they have to resign 10 days before they start qualifying.
That I can check with the supervisor of elections. We can just call them, but it's irrevocable. So once you submit it, you can't get it back. So you got to be real sure when you do.
Okay, now does that include board members? Board members, those that sit on the board that's running for an office?
Okay, good question. The answer is no. What they can't do is continue to serve. When we talk about the resign to run, that's for other elected officials. But if you serve on the planning board, for example, and you're going to run for the office, you don't have to reserve for the planning board until or unless you become elected. Which is important. You do become elected if you're unopposed immediately. And that means the sunshine attaches to you immediately, even if you haven't been sworn in. So if I was on the planning, and I announced for a seat on council, and I was unopposed. The moment I'm unopposed and the closing qualification, you and I cannot speak without it being a sunshine violation. Even though I haven't been sworn in yet, even though my term hasn't begun yet. So that's important for everybody to know that's within the hearing of my voice.
I don't have any other concerns. Thank you.
Councilman.
Yes, okay, just thank everybody for coming out this evening. I really appreciate everybody coming and being engaged. I know it's been a long meeting, be as brief as possible. My condolences to anybody that have suffered any loss, in town or, friends or what have you. My, condolences to anybody that have suffered any loss. Also, for the record, I just wanted to make this publicly sound. I know we had an individual come up and speak about me speaking about other people in terms of being their voice. I am the voice of the community. Last time I checked, I'm the voice of the voiceless that can't speak up here and the ones that don't come to this panel. So it's my job and my obligation to make sure that I'm fulfilling the need of protecting them. And that's my job also, to protect the town of Eatonville and making sure that they're getting everything that's gonna be the development of them and not undermining anybody that have any issues with me. What's my opinion on that? I had an opportunity to speak to people that have voiced their opinion about the situation that will possibly be occurring down in the Carolina area. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. There's a lot of people that don't want it, and there's some people that do want it. So for the ones that do want it, my heart go out to you too. It does. But I'm looking out for I'm looking out for everybody, not just the majority or the high percentage of people. I'm looking out for everybody. That's my job. So if anybody have any issues or concerns, I'm not hard to find. They can email me, text me, call me, or what have you. And that's my take on that right there. But I don't never want to sit here and feel like that I'm just speaking on behalf of other people, because I am. That's what I do. You know what I'm saying? Because I actually have conversations with people that have issues with what's going on in the community. So I just wanted to make that known right there also. And then with the bidding process, to the respect to everybody that have actually did the ranking and the numbers and bidding and all that process right there with all the different engineering companies. I have no problem with nobody. I just don't necessarily agree with the process and on how it went, and nothing against the committee either. So I just want to make that valid and make that known as well. I do look forward to the on a more positive note, I do look forward to attending the 1887 first, which is put on by Julian Johnson. He does a sensational job with just getting people together, and I got a great appreciation for what he does every month. And also I'm looking forward to the life circle, which is put on by the Standards. They was in here earlier, they left, but they do a tremendous job in just getting people together. Also, anybody that's interested in coming out and just getting exercise in, it's good for the heart, it's good for your health, it's just good all over to just get out there early morning. If anybody's interested, we'll be right across the street, right here at Ace Realtor, at around about 7:30. We get started around about 8. And we finish up around about 9:30 or so. So anybody that's interested in coming out, please come out and join us in cycling. And then they do provide bicycles also. If you guys don't have any bicycles, they do provide them. So anybody that is looking forward to coming out and need a bicycle, reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get one. Also, mind the hearts. I just wanted to say, yeah, I know we probably will be here before the next one, but I know I'm looking forward to this year parade again. I know it's in January the 17th. Last year was sensational. And I hope it's the same way it was last year. It was great. The staff did a great job and making sure that we had everything that we needed in terms of candy, which has always been a problem in the past, but I just, got a great appreciation for the staff and what y'all do on a daily basis, every department. You guys, I know you get jobs are not always easy. But at the end of the day, you guys do a sensational job, and I appreciate everybody that works for the town of Eatonville and that is affiliated with Eatonville, also with, just making sure that we're moving forward and doing everything to make sure that we're good at all times. And, especially this gentleman right here, and I'm gonna say this in closing. The scope of work that you've done since sitting in that seat has been impeccable, man. And I got a great appreciation for everything that you bring to the table, your professionalism, the way you structure things, the way you detail, and just managing this administration when the mayor's not here. So, I'll give you kudos right now and give you flowers for doing everything that you say you was gonna do. You know what I'm saying? So you're a man of your word and just continue doing what you're doing and stay faithful to yourself, man. And thank you. And if everybody, if all minds and hearts are clear, that's my report. And y'all have a blessed night.
Councilman Daniels.
Yes. I've had the pleasure of being a part of two records. One for being the shortest council meeting, which I hit at that time when the mayor was absent. And part of being this longest council meeting tonight. Man, it's my record, bro. I ain't gonna never forget. This is a difficult part for me right now, but something that needed to be done. People that, have issues, they, seek other avenues of finding strength or finding their answer. Mine is, I went to the Lord when I had this situation to come up. And it just happened I have quiet time with me, and my quiet time happened to be on the 16th. And Proverbs 16, the first verse says, people make plans in their minds, but the Lord gives them the right words to say. And as I continue to go on at the end of that chapter, people throw dice to choose what is right, but it's the Lord who decides the answer. And with that being said, due to circumstances beyond my control, I will be resigning tonight. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve this historic town of Eatonville and the people. Those that supported me and a couple of people that didn't, I still have love for them in this community. I have so many people to thank. First of all, Miss Herder Wright, who used to work here. She educated me on something when I came to sign checks because I had a bias when I came to sign checks. I'm only going to sign the checks on the stuff that I voted for. And she educated me and told me that you can't do that. You're a councilman. When you come here, you sign all checks. And I respected that, her opinion, and she wasn't afraid to tell me. And from then on, I signed all checks. Katrina, Miss Gibson, who's been to me a valuable asset, I think, to the town. I told Miss Katrina, I said, if I ever become mayor, and you can tell if she's here, that I said, if I ever become mayor, you would not be my financial director. I told her that. But I had so much respect for how she has carried this town. I think she's the MVP. I said, I would never get rid of you, though, but you wouldn't be my financial director. I really thank her for all the sacrifices that she's done. Public Works Department, the police department, seeing that I have a picture now of Chief taking a picture with my mom before she passed, that type of love that you show your residents and your people. I really appreciate that. And those are the moments that will be forever etched in my heart. Eddie Cole advised me to run back in the day when I was a youngster. And as a matter of fact, Vice Mayor Washington and I ran against each other. And I lost by 15 votes. I was disheartened. Yeah, I was a good race. I was disheartened. And I was like, man, I ain't doing this crap no more. And then I received a call. And I received a call from Mont Fillmore, who's going on to be with the Lord, and my mom. And they said, I think it's time that you run. I think you would be great. And from then on, with their leadership and experience, I haven't lost since. I mean, it was, it's just been a blessing to have to campaign with people and get out and talk to the community. It's a lot more. Ella Dinkins, who told me when I first came on board that I used to wear jeans, and I remember her calling me and saying, baby, come here. When you come in here, you dress accordingly. We're here to conduct business. And from then on, I've always never worn jeans to a council meeting. Pastor Bargain there, his insightful words. Evelyn Mount, who I consider, me and her have been together since I was a little boy. I call her my girlfriend. I thank her for her wisdom as well. Miss Erlene Watkins, who's always had an ear for the town of Eatonville. My church, Redeemer Life Center Church, thank you guys for your support. And the University of Kings and Queens, my motorcycle club. They've always been there, backing me whatever I need. They've always been there for me. One special person also that has gone to be with the Lord, his name is Tim Allen. I think Tim Adams, who was a voice of, every time I saw this guy, he would always be my hype man. There's the future mayor of Eatonville right there, who has the most votes in the recent election. Tim Adams just had mad respect for him, and I want to thank him so much. A couple of people, and I won't be before you long, but I won't be done until I'm finished. That was my goddaughter Michelle that was for saying she got from me, and I think I got it from her father. But I appreciate that. Courtney Jones, Dana Johnson, and Sue Morris. These people have always encouraged me to run for mayor, and I would always say I thought that would be the end goal. But I always waited to see when would be the right time. When would be the right time to run? I not knowing that this situation would come and I would have to, divvy from that because, this is what God has for me to do. To my family, to Tiffany Daniels, who has been my backbone, who has been there with me on the nights, getting out of here late like this, and what are y'all talking about in there for this long? For all the issues that we have had, I want to thank her. One thing that she has never been afraid of is to tell me how she feels about Eatonville. And she always told me that since you got me in this hellhole, you're gonna run for mayor one day. And, and I say she was not a fan of Eatonville, but she's come to love this place and respect it as much as being the black municipality in the United States. I must say that her insight when it came down to politics was limited, but when it came down to right and wrong, she would let me know. And when Bruce Mount came to increase his pay, I was against it. And when I got home and explained it to her, she said, "That's a man that's trying to provide and provide for his family. Find a way to make it work." And when I got back in council meeting, I found a win-win situation where maybe he didn't get the 20, but he got the 15 and a half that he wanted. And there was a way that we showed that we can work through progress, through understanding, which has been our model for years. So I want to thank her for that, keep me on the straight and narrow. I want to thank my kids, Rod, Raquel, and Ray for always being there for me, campaigning with me when it's time to knock on doors, but loving to be in the parade when it's time to throw candy. I appreciate y'all so much, man. I thank y'all. My wife told me, you can say this. I'm not a perfect man, but I'm a man that have made tons of mistakes. But the good part about it is that I've learned and I've grown from them all. I still am 1887. I was born here, I was raised here, and I brought my family here because I believe in Eatonville. I love it to death. I really do. I really love Eatonville. I don't know what the Lord has in store for me. I don't know if he'll bring me back to politics or just have me to do something else. But just like Proverbs 16:33 says, in the end, I'm gonna roll the dice and I'm gonna see what the Lord has, the answer he has for me. So thank you all. I didn't want it to be like this, but it is what it is. So thank you. I love Eatonville, and I appreciate y'all.
Bryce.
Oh, yes. I'll be quick, but yes, yes, we had Vice-Mayor Danes, Councilman Danes, we did against each other back in the day. Then when I did run, I was like him, I gave it up for about 7, 8 years. And I supported his campaign when he got back in the seat. I supported him, cooked breakfast at his campaign meeting on during election day. So it ain't about, when you run into somebody, you get angry at them. Like he said, we ain't gonna ride motorcycles because I don't like motorcycles. Right. So we ain't gonna ride motorcycles together. But I definitely, love the brother. We used to ball together back on Westmount, kick some butt, But brother, yeah, you brought chipmunks when you said, I know someone's over your wife and kids came in. I said, what's going on? Hey, you got to go to the too? Like, what you mean? So definitely, man, appreciate your endeavors, man. Definitely. I said it's kind of speechless, to hear that from you, but just good luck in the future, man. So and I'm not gonna be long because somebody supposed to order Uber Eats, Katrina at the door. We late. I mean, I have to be at work at 12:30. So I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, I'm up. Yeah, I have to be at work at 12:30. Yeah, I got to get this late. Thank you.
So I've cleared off everything I had on my paper. Thank you for the service to this town. I didn't think it would end like this either. It's your fault.
Man,
Oh, it's the 20th fault.
Before we adjourn, Given the new information, Dr. Daniel, just for the record, is that effective immediately?
You might need some check.
No, I really want to this, in section 2.07 of, our charter, it speaks to vacancies. We are over 60 days before the next election, which means that an appointment has to be made. But I'm gonna read it based on the language. Filling a vacancy, should a vacancy in the office of town council occur when there are 60 days or less left in the unexpired term, no appointment shall be made, and that vacancy will be filled at the next regular municipal election. Should a vacancy occur where there are more than 60 days left, the unexpired term, that vacancy shall be filled by town council within 30 days of the date of vacancy, with any qualified resident so appointed to serve until a successor is elected at the next regular municipal election. We are over 60 days, so that means an appointment need to be made within 30 days. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
How is that appointment done? How is that?
Council.
Council.
Yes.
So whether you
How
did
does
it,
it work?
how it works is you could, if you chose to put it on the agenda, the mayor will control the agenda for the next meeting, as an example. Then you would bring, you could announce it to the residents, or you could just go talk to them individually, just like you would be doing committee members. Say you have an interest in serving, and then bring their name to the meeting at which it will be decided. So whether that's the next meeting or the one in January, as long as it's within 30 days of this one, that's the key part. Which I don't think this January 6th would be within 30 days.
So it has to be before January.
And unless you did a special one, it would have to be the next one. And so then you bring back your names, and I nominate John Smith. And then if there's a second, then you can decide it. Or if you have more than one, any more nominations, then it may be unanimous by that person, but that's what should happen. So if it's the next meeting, if that's when you decide to do, then you should bring back your names of who you want to be as a successor. And then you have a discussion of their merits and so forth. And ultimately, somebody's gonna put forth, well, I'm gonna make a motion for this one. And they will either go through or not. Now, if they fail, if they got another nomination, yeah, I nominate blah, 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 till they get at least 3 votes.
That's it.
Yeah, I know that.
So that was the last report.
Yes.
All in favor of adjournment?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed. It is 10:32. Your adjourned.
Yeah.